Well, apparently we're live. And hello, everybody. And I was given a hint by StreamYard to say a kind of a welcome message also to the people that hopefully will and may watch this on the catch up afterwards. But thank you ever so much for anyone that's here. I put the link in the chat early on. I'll put it in again. This is the link that you can press if you'd like to come on to the screen bits, and if you just want to come on just with the audio, just with speech, that's fine as well, of course. Whatever you wish, whatever you feel comfortable with. Hello, everybody in the chat already. There's 11 people here already. I'm always amazed that I only just decided today to have a go at this live. Hopefully it goes all right. I think what prompted me to do it was watching the longer version of the Loose Women segment. I'd watched the cropped version on Jabe's channel yesterday. I think I might be speaking a bit loud. I don't know. I've got to quieten down. But yeah, so I watched the full version with the full segment of it, as it were. And I thought, well, a lot's happened, off the back of Anouk Curry's brilliant documentary. And I think with this Loose Women segment, which it's got a very wide reach, hasn't it? And I thought that's something we could talk about, and about the documentary itself. There's been some other. I've got this link up here. I'll just check it again. It's the Daily Septic. Sorry, not the Septic. I was going to say that it's Daily Skeptic. Excuse me. The Daily Skeptic report from Dr. David Livermore. The one that says nappy pads on ceiling, sewage leaks, did infection kill the baby? So that's dated the 3rd of August. I'll just put the link of that in the. I'm just going to get the link of that together, and I was going to put that in the chat there as well if somebody hasn't seen that. And before we started, hi Pat, hi Tracy, hi everybody, hi Marcus, hi what name can I use for FS? I was going to say the whole thing, but I'll refrain until I've had another glass of wine. But I was just watching. I'd watched some of the iconic. I don't know if anyone's seen that, the iconic video. I'll put that in the link as well. I keep forgetting to put links because usually on YouTube you put links and YouTube takes them off. But I think in the chat aspect, I don't think they do. So I don't know if everyone or anyone has seen this. Hi, E-Symmetry. Hi, hope you're doing well there in Toronto. Hi, Julie. Hi, Melanistic Marble. Hi, Jimmy Civil. Forgive me if I miss anybody out. I'm trying to get everybody. So what I did there, I just put the link there to Gareth Ike's iconic channel, in which there'll be a number of faces that you'll know, names and faces. Richard Gill, Carl Perkins from According to Carl in the UK. There's Sarah Hawkins there, who's the doula that was on a live a little while ago, probably a couple of months ago now. And there's a chap who's I can't remember his name now. He's a journalist anyway. I think Dr. something, but he's actually a journalist. So and David Curtin, of course. And I think there was somebody else. Who else was there? Well, David Curtin was there. I might have missed somebody out, but I've been dipping in between the sections there. Hi, George. Hi, Jenny. So yeah, oh hi, Jenny. So lots of names I recognise, and you're all very welcome, and welcome to anybody who may listen to this after the event, as it were, once it's gone. Cheers, everybody. Anyway, I just went to the shop. I thought, as I was saying a minute ago, I thought I'd go for this live because of what's been happening. I think it's another real node point, this ITV, this Anouk's documentary. I think it was very good. Be interested to hear what your responses are to it, what you thought about it. I thought it was very well paced, and I think it was at the right level. And there's other structural reasons why I think it was very good, because I thought, it's for those of us who have been with this for some time, as we all have here, that it's easy to think, well, why wasn't this in there? Why wasn't that? But obviously there's a time limit for the show, and also you don't want to overwhelm the listener, and you've got to sort of tell it. There's some real good storytelling techniques there, I thought, with the opening, in which it sort of set things up as to, well, here's what you think you know. Here's the main story. Here's the narrative. Now let's begin to deconstruct this. So I'll see if I can get any able to see from America. Someone put on YouTube. Oh, that's great. That's exactly it. I was going to mention that because I've got my list of my some of the things I've been putting on posts. So yes, it's on YouTube under. In case anyone hasn't found it on YouTube and you can't see it, I'm just looking it up now. I'm just going through my list of things. Can't see it at the moment. It's on IT. The whole thing's on there, isn't it? ITV. Sorry, I know I'm scrolling, but it's can't be helped. Where is it now? It's the 50-minute one. Yeah, it's on ITV Real Life Stories. So let me just get that up a minute. Again, I'll just put the link. Oh, sorry. Oh, I hate these adverts, but I can't. I'm not going to pay for getting rid of them. Anywho, hi, Callangamp. I'm just going to catch up with the comments now. But so that link there is to, hi, Pat. That link there is to, does Pat, to both Pats here? That's great. So that link there is to the full documentary, so people can see it from all over the world, as indeed Jenny has done. I'm just going to get to some of the had a great review in The Guardian. That's right, Julie. I think it got 5 stars, didn't it? E-Symmetry says the documentary was balanced, the emotional, factual in a brilliant way. I thought so as well. And you need to it was I was discussing it with my friend. I said it was kind of a generalist approach. Obviously there's some great specificities further down the line, but initially you're talking to a general audience, and I think there's a reasonable assumption to make the general audience have followed the mainstream story about this. So it's about, this is what you think you know type of idea. Let's unpack that bit by bit. So I agree there, E-Symmetry. Jenny thought it was excellent as well. Great review. Callan Gamp says, hi, Mark. I have spoken at conferences on infection control for healthcare estates. Oh, that's great. Building design and maintenance. The UK is awash with international experts. Sorry if I'm shouting. On the implications of sewage leak. Gosh, it's awash with the experts, but they didn't bring them in, did they? They didn't. They kind of. It was almost like a firefighting thing, right to the level of sticking a nappy in the gap in the ceiling, which isn't. I wouldn't have thought that was the optimum approach. I'm being sardonic there, and obviously it should have been closed down. And even the main man, Dr. Evans said it would have been shut down. So because, but then apparently he didn't know anything about it. Weirdly. So yeah, that's great, Callingham. Melanistic Marble says, I've detected some criticism about the footage of Lucy at her friend's wedding, but I think it struck a chord with the loose women. Did you think that? That's really interesting, because I'd seen that some people had run with. Am I speaking too loudly? Could you let me know? Am I shouting? How do I reduce mic volume? Can I bring that down? Oh, I don't know how to do it. Anyway, I don't know what I'm doing with all that. That's a really interesting question. I remember, I think Mervyn put up a kind of a screenshot of reactions to it, in which some of the usual suspects, even on legacy media, were saying, oh, and Mervyn was saying, oh, this seems to be the only takeaway they've got, is that, Lucy's on. I thought, well, could it have been and I had a frisson of a moment of, could that have been an error of judgment? In other words, giving them, not that there's anything wrong with it, because obviously Lucy's innocent and she was in a situation where she was trying to get on with her life, but she had years of being on bail, wasn't she? So why should she shut down her whole life at all, especially being innocent, particularly that? But I thought, on balance, I thought it has the humanizing effect, because there's been that campaign to kind of, well, to dehumanize Lucy Letby. So I think they made an attempt to go for it, to run with it, but I don't think in the fullness of time, and hopefully even before then, it will be seen as, this is someone putting on a brave face and someone who knows they're innocent and saying, well, no, I'm going to carry on with my life as much as I can. Why should I shut down my life completely because I'm being persecuted? And why shouldn't I go to my best friend's wedding, you know? Thank you, Melanistic Marble. Hi, Pat. Hi, Crystal Star. Nice to see you too. Marcus in Hearts. Hi, Marcus. I was in a shop yesterday and I saw the front page of the Sun. Oh, right. Yeah. So the Sun. Yeah. There seems to be two camps, basically. And I think they're in this, you know, mainstream media, and they're kind of they're still trying to eke out as much fake, phony horror as they can. But that you know, they'll turn on a dime later when the full tipping point is reached. They'll all be behind the idea that, oh, they knew all the time that Lucy Letby was innocent. Something that Chris on Lucy Letby Analysis said in one of his comments. He said, in respect of, and this is something else that perhaps we can talk about. He said, in respect of Judith Moritz's imminent documentary, I think it's coming out next week, isn't it? I think about 3 days before. I think my friend Catherine told me it's 3 days before her book is published. And Chris says in his comment, he says, you know, no doubt she'll do a pivot. That he didn't use that word, but she'll pivot into saying, yeah, I've been reporting on this all the way along, and I kind of move seamlessly into the other camp, as it were. And I wouldn't put it past any of them to do that. But if in the end they come on board, as it were, then all to the good. In that way, you know, you can just, the other stuff is just them being the kind of animals they are, you know. I don't mean that, you know what I mean, the kind of creatures they are, as it were, in that world of journalism. But obviously there's many journalists who have been on board for a long time. Hi Liz. Hi Tracy. So Tracy says, I very quickly get behind on comments. It really angered some people seeing the photo, having a good time. Yeah, because they'll take that as ammunition. They'll take it as ammunition. And I was saying, I don't know if I finished my thought before, I did have a frisson of thinking, are you giving them the gift of the ammunition there? Because you know they'll use it. It's like giving it to a common or garden troll on the internet, and you know they'll use it. They'll just suck it up like a vampire, you know. But, and I can't remember who said it in there, who said it, this about loose women. Melanistic Marble said it. It touches other people who are nearer the fence, as it were, or tipping over the fence into believing it was a miscarriage of justice. It tips them over and say, look at this, that's not a murderer. That's not, I mean, you know, that's not a murderer. It kind of works in some other under the radar way. You know, of course the trolls are going to jump on it, but anyway. Perfect sound. Thank you very much, 36 trillion cells. I wish I still had 36 trillion cells. I think I've got about 8 left. Sound is fine. Thank you very much. Thank you, Marcus. Thanks, Pat. If anybody would like to come on, I'll put there's lots of other things I want to say. I was going to say more about the iconic one as well, which I've just watched the vast majority of. We should all be shouting. Yeah, we should be shouting. Tracy Heaford Cruz says, agrees with Melanistic. It really angers you. I've said that. E-symmetry. Hi there, E-symmetry. Dr. Nina Modi said that the hospital was, I think I've seen this maybe in a comment by you. I think I saw that today or yesterday, that the hospital was required to look after babies beyond their capability. Does anyone have insight into this requirement? Where was the pressure coming from? That's very interesting you should say that, because that's a little bit of the line that's coming out through the documentary that Gareth Icke of Iconic has done, when he's talking to, in particular, he's talking to a range of people, obviously Carl and everything, Carl Perkins, but when he's talking to Richard Gill, Professor Gill, and Sarah Hawkins, the doula, it's that kind of idea, and that's how it finishes, is why were those babies not meant to be there? I.e., was there pressure coming from somewhere that they shouldn't have been born at that hospital? And this goes into the subject area that came up in the live that we did here a couple of months ago, nearly now, with regard to the twin-to-twin syndrome and the work and research that Sarah Hawkins, the doula, has been doing and is continuing to do alongside Professor Gill. So possibly, in which one can draw the inference that the third level unit is part of this, I can't think of the word now, but kind of not a survey, but a kind of they're being tested. They're part of a program in which too many deaths would not look good for them. Therefore, I think this is the gist of what I understood. Therefore, they're pushing babies that they know they're going to die onto another hospital, so they don't affect. As horrific as that sounds, even though that they should have been born at the tertiary level hospital and certainly should have been cared there, they're pushing them onto another hospital so it doesn't mess up their stats. And anything's possible, of course it is. So yeah, that's an interesting asymmetry. I don't know how far that takes us in terms of proving it, but Jenny says, here in America, we also have aging hospitals. I've seen some interesting patchwork in my career to plug rainwater seepage, but using nappies to catch sewage is a new low. Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah. If you couldn't, in the early days, if somebody had made a comment presuming that, I bet, it's a neonatal ward. I bet in the holes in the ceilings, which we knew about from early on, the seepage into the crawl space, etc. If somebody had said, I bet they were plugging it with nappies, and it would have been like, oh no, you're overdoing it now. You're kind of like, you're overstating it. But it happens to be what happened. So we hear. Julie Wheeler says, Dr. Scotland. Yes, he did, absolutely. I mean, hugely. I mean, Dr. Scott McLachlan's Substacks were going through each of the babies on the indictment, each of the deaths in such great depth, from all through the autumn and winter of 2023 into 2024, and looking at the different threats to the babies that were there, and all the signs of sepsis and other issues. Thanks, Liz, for confirming that. I'm glad that sounds not too bad. I sometimes think I'm shouting a bit. Don't shout. Cup of tea with poetry. That's Liz. She's saying, let's make noise. We are the noise. That's what Lady Thirlwall called us. Yeah, that's what she did. We're just noise. Yeah. The irony of that statement, is it not, or one of the many ironies of Thirlwall, is that essentially they are, the whole premise behind them is to create a lot of noise to cover up the reality of what's happened there. Now, it'll all be in very fancy binders and with King's councils talking about it, and huge expense, and posh water on the tables, and all that kind of malarkey. And but it's noise, really, to cover, because it's to occlude, it's to drown out the reality of it. I think there was a closure of a unit in Wales, right? Yes, and Was that at the same time, Pat? There were these temporary closures of the North Wales of neonatal units in North Wales at the same time as some of the details are rusty in my mind now, but around the same time that that was said to account for some of the increase in the acuity as well, that Countess of Chester was taking up that slack in the system, as it were, that would have otherwise been taken up by those two, I think at least two hospitals in North Wales. Having said that, I remember doing an FOI, and 2015 and 2016 wasn't a particularly, well, as long as you can, with the caveat being, as long as you can trust what information you get from an FOI. And I in broad terms, who knows? But what they did say, what the figures said anyway, was that 2015, 2016 wasn't a particular outlier for the overall simple raw number of babies that had stays in the neonatal unit across those 2 full years. So yeah, sorry, I'll try to catch up a bit. I'm not too loud, thanks, George. I speak for everyone here, Jenny. Your video with Dowie Evans singing "Did It My Way" was hysterical. Well, it was him. He's the one that deserves all the credit to that. Because yes, it's very fine, very fine. Thanks, Jenny. But yeah, it was great to get him on to do that. And he only charged £5,000. That's his usual after dinner speaking or singing fee, you know, where he takes you back through. Sorry, I'm just thinking in all these kind of weird satirical ways now. He's there like at dinners and stuff like that. He's an after dinner speaker, and he takes you all through his 40 cases, like a retired boxer, you know, saying about all his wins, because that's how he kind of came across. You know, I've never been knocked out, except that one time by that judge who said my work was worthless, but that doesn't count because reasons, you know, because reasons. But thanks for Jenny. Thirlwall has earned £500,000 from her inquiry. Oh gosh, really? No, I didn't. So I'm a bit behind with some of the, not being on Twitter anymore, with some of the private eye stuff. Wonder why she didn't want to delay proceedings. Yeah, well, it's a nice earner. It's a nice earner. Nice work if you can get it. Well, it's not. I mean, nice, you know. But bogus. I had some thoughts about that earlier when I was getting ready to do the live thing. Well, getting ready, like turning the computer on and opening this bottle of wine. That's getting ready. But I was having some thoughts about that, about how can Thirlwall, how can it report? What can it report? I know it's stated that, so Thirlwall has said, we're not here to make a judgment about her guilt and innocence. That's been dealt with elsewhere and hitherto. It's happened before. We're just looking at, well, we're looking at what then? The whole premise of Thirlwall is that it's based on the finding of guilt, isn't it? Otherwise, I know it's leaked out a lot of other things which have been very useful for our side, as it were, but it's all predicated. The whole point of Thirlwall and all that money and everything is all based on the idea that there was a serial killer, isn't it? Why would you be having it? You wouldn't be having it otherwise. You know, well, here's the thing. So if it had been a decent trial, Lucy Letby had been found innocent and it had come out in the interim period about all the real reasons for the deaths, in other words, they were not looking for another murderer, there were no murderers, you're not going to have a Thirlwall inquiry. They're going to shut that. They're going to shut that stuff down. I was going to say they're going to shut that shit down. They've shut it all down. They would have done to minimize it, because it's all about protecting institutions. It's all about that. I was talking about that with, well, I was emailing somebody about that in another context, but I think that's where we are. Trace. So Pat Gurney says, sorry if I miss anybody. Requirement, I see. I think would be lack of capacity elsewhere. I understood that the consultants wouldn't lose their skills. Yeah, that was right, Pat. There was an argument, the idea that they kept wanting to, but they wanted their cake and eat it, didn't they? So they didn't want to lose their skills, I'm talking about the consultants now. So not they didn't want to lose the skills, but they didn't want to do the ward rounds either. So they didn't want to have oversight, but they want to keep their skills. It's I'm trying to avoid words like psychopathic, but it's just none of it has congruence in terms of, and that's exactly what apparently they didn't want to do. But they didn't care enough to say we need to go to the management, to have a meeting and say we don't feel we're running this properly. You need to get further consultants so we can have a daily ward round at least. Didn't bother doing that. So it's all about them, really, isn't it? Kind of about them at other people's expense. That's what it seems to be. Baby's ENF supposed to be born at LWH. I can't remember the details of that. I'm losing some of the details because there's so much, isn't there? That may be the case. Yeah, I know there was certainly some other. There were a number of the babies that end up on the. It's an odd phrase, babies on the indictment, but the babies, you know what I mean, that form part of the indictment in terms of the charges and eventual convictions, wrongful convictions. That were supposed to have been born, and the mums had been promised they'd be born in other hospitals, i.e. tertiary, more specialist hospitals. Marcus in Hart says, apart from seeing Lucy freed, I want to see consequences for Jayara and Breary Evans, yeah, and for what they did. I do as well. I mean, it would be such an enormous relief and setting right that once Lucy is freed, you'd hope that a lot will flow out from that, and again they'll try to shut it down as much as possible, but I don't think they'll be able to shut it down completely. Hi Chris says one ward round a week. Does that sound palliative care being given to very vulnerable babies? No, I can't remember the exact figures. I said 1 a week or 2 a week, wasn't it? And it should have been, some people have said it should be 1 a day. Other people have said it should be 2 a day. Now, if they're dealing, it comes back to the acuity again, doesn't it? Now, if they're dealing with babies that should ordinarily be in level 3 units, you would hope there would be 2 a day. So, and let's say they were doing 2 a week, then they're still doing, a 1/7 of what they should do. So thanks for that, Chris. That's hi Ruth, how are you doing? Oh, hair, yeah, the hair's gone. Yeah, the hair's gone. I was just getting so hot, and it's just getting hot and bothered. I'm going through my male menopause. Sorry, I've got to keep on a serious level, haven't I? Melanistic marble, male menopause. Is there such a thing? We know there was a countrywide spike of neonatal deaths at the time. Well, yeah, there certainly were, and there were some very high figures up in, it was the one up in Blackpool, and I'm trying to think of the names now. Some of the names, the one called Sherwood Hospital, I think. Again, back to Dr. McLachlan, he did that. He did like a comparative study. It's all on his Substack still, with 14 hospitals that were, a lot of them were in a similar area, the northwest, and some with some very high levels relative. This interesting point Mark makes here. I doubt the Thirlwall report will ever appear. Well, that's right, and that's my quandary in the sense, what can it be if they jump the gun and make the report? It's almost as though they're hostage to the idea. Unless and until it's resolved with the CCRC / Court of Appeal, how can they report? They know they're going to look, absolutely absurd, because they're reporting into what future provisions you should make against dealing with serial killers, and there isn't one. So it's just, and it's all their own fault. It's their own fault because they were advised to pause, weren't they? They were advised to pause it, and they didn't want to do it. So yeah. Liz says, cup of tea with poetry. Liz says, so David Davis wrote and asked for Thirlwall to be delayed. Sorry, yeah, you just Oh, that's great. That's what I was thinking. I think I'm right in saying that he never heard anything back. No, I don't believe he has, unless he has and he hasn't told us or hasn't gone out to us. Likewise, I think he contacted the police about Jayara and Perjury, and other people have, obviously Dr. Dimitrova has contacted the Cheshire Police about a number of things, including Evans and Breary, I think, and perhaps about Jayara as well. There's been a flood. There's been more than a trickle of reports going in about people, and to the GMC about them as well, isn't there? Ruth McCauley said the legal profession run this country. Yeah, I saw a documentary a few years ago, and it was the idea that these high-level accountancy firms have this inordinate power across the country, but those are in turn very deeply connected. Talking about the deep state here, deeply connected with the legal system, as it were, profession, or how you can just make things happen or avoid accountability. Jenny says Breary was involved and probably being paid to do medical research on vulnerable babies. Research SIFT, speed in feeding trials. All right. Thanks, Jenny. I don't know if this has come up. This might have come up before, hasn't it? I think Breary was the contact for COCH. Breary made grant money. Right. Yeah, I know this rings a bell now. Sorry, rings a bell. I'll just put the link up again in case anybody wants to join me as I'm on the screen, as it were. You can just be speaking if you like. You can just have don't have to have the picture on or whatever if you don't want to. Just in case anybody fancies. But that's interesting. Yeah. Well, this kind of background stuff, and this is what's coming up in I put the link above, the Iconic documentary, which doesn't seem to have got that many views considering the size of the channel. I don't know if because of Iconic and some people views towards it, and maybe YouTube's views towards some things expressed on that channel, maybe it's being shadow banned. It could well be being shadow banned, really. It's quite possible. So yeah, that's very interesting, Jenny. I don't know how do we kind of, do we need some investigative journalists to go deeper into that aspect? We probably do, don't we? Jenny follows up by saying, no vulnerable babies, no research grant money. Breary made money. Yeah, follow the money, as they say. 36 trillion cells. Surely Jayaram's committed perjury, so should be arrested. Has he? Yeah, well, not as far as I know he's been arrested. It's whether they can kind of slime their way out of it and kind of get this kind of plausible deniability of, well, I meant it in good faith. I didn't know I was lying. I think to prove perjury, you've got to say, I have to, well, and on the face of it, you should be able to say, well, you wrote this email, didn't you? And now you've said in court that nobody called you, and now you wrote the email saying she did call you. What kind of excuse can you make about that? Well, you'll say, I'd forgotten I wrote that email. Well, I both forgot I wrote that email and I forgot that it happened. And but he's in a very cleft state. Well, a number of them is that, well, it's the idea that when he's giving evidence under oath, as he did with a number of other issues in terms of like the flitting rashes, and this applies to a number of the witnesses, is that you've got this, it's always a red flag when memories improve over time, isn't it? It's always a red flag. At the time, they don't remember. In the police interviews, they don't remember. They don't know SHIT from Shinola. But later on, it's clear as a bell, and it's been haunting their nightmares forever. So there we are. Yeah. So will he ever be even charged with it? I don't know. I think it will be part of the damage limitation to protect these people. Probably. Hi, Ruth. Ruth says care fertility at COCH was registered with the Human Fertilisation and Embryonic Authority in 2014. It was based at the Women and Children's building at COCH, Care Fertility. Is this fitting in a bit with what Jenny was saying then, Ruth, about these? Is there some sense there that there's these other trials going on there that had an impact, on the acuity of the babies that were taken in, or other treatments that the mothers had prior to giving birth, or the babies had after birth that may be impactful there? These are all lines of inquiry that need to be looked into, aren't there? Julie Wheeler, and then Marcus says apparently doesn't qualify as perjury. Well, in order to convict somebody of perjury, I suppose you've got to prove that they knew they were lying when they were lying, and it's whether he can, or his defense team could say, well, I thought that's what I thought at the time. As far as I knew, that's what happened. I forgot writing that email. I forgot I wrote that email. And it shouldn't work, but it shouldn't work. But it will. Ruth Macaulay also says privatisation of NHS causes fragmentation of services. Were COCH ill-prepared for the multiple pregnancies? Yeah, I think they were. And I don't know how many of you have seen the iconic video, but that's discussed quite a lot there. And under the basic discussion, the broad discussion that a lot of those babies were not meant to have been born there, or perhaps were not meant to have been, and why were they? And they were, and going further, they were funneled to go there for reasons of trials being undertaken elsewhere, that were required to meet, or they wanted to meet certain levels of survivability, So I don't know. It does sound awful, but it's quite possible. Hi, Lily the Unicorn. Brilliant name. I'd love to meet a unicorn in real life. I think they're out there somewhere, aren't they? Well, there's Lily. Lily's a unicorn. Do you know if the doctors have resumed clinical duties after the garden leave? No, I don't know. It's all gone quiet, isn't it? I think there's probably, and I'm not on Twitter anymore, so I don't know if that's been spoken about anymore. I imagine there's people that know, but there's probably a ring of steel around there, aren't there, in terms of information getting out, and certainly from people working there, and they're worried, So I'm not sure about that. But I'm sure somebody knows. Well, they must know, mustn't they? They must know what's going on there. But it's a good question, yeah. Hi, Lynn. Lynn Salter says, I may be overthinking, but Breary is a friend of the consultant in Liverpool. Yeah, is he I forgot what's his name. I did a link to him. What's his name? Funny name. Oh, forgotten his name. Yeah, he's a friend of that guy. Was he taking inappropriate babies, twins and triplets? COCH were not up to caring for these babies. Absolutely not. They weren't. And evidently they weren't up to taking babies in that gestation range per se at all, were they? Let alone at that level of acuity as well. So they were a level 1 unit effectively, or that had the scope to be one, acting as a level 3. So yeah, interesting. Anybody fancy coming on? I'll put the link again. Just need to click the link and you'll be in like Flynn. So I got to the stage where I started talking nonsense now, but I'll keep the brakes on that. Julie Wheeler says, why has Jayara not been questioned for perjury? Well, why indeed? Well, I guess in the cynical world that it is, he's one of their star witnesses. So it would be like Cheshire Police. Like I've got to be careful I say now, because I'm just beginning to run away with it. It'd be like the police, like getting Dowie Evans for flashing or something like that. Not saying that he does that, but it would look bad for their overall case. Do you know what I mean? Can you imagine? Anyway, I'm not saying he's done that, but it wouldn't look good, and it wouldn't look good if Jayaram was being. But arresting, even if you're not going to end up charging them, arresting the managers is congruent with their backstory, is congruent with that, because they're doing it predicated on the idea that the managers should have backed up the heroic consultants and stopped the serial killer from plying their trade. You know, well, it's all rubbish, of course, but that's what we're in. We're in the realm of narrative and storytelling. It's all storytelling from all these people. Storytelling, and Thirlwall's full of storytelling as well. Anywho, I feel like I'm gabbling. Anybody want to join me? And so you don't have to hear me waffle too much. Pat Chance says, hopefully the CCRC will refer before the Thirlwall report is released. I would hope so. It would be a waste of time and money. So it's conditional in a sense, isn't it? Thirlwall report is conditional on what happens with the CCRC. Therefore, does this imply that Thirlwall knows it's going to be referred before they're due to report? Because the CCRC aren't going to hold on to this for 3, 4, 5 years, are they? I mean, it's monstrous. They should have turned it around in a week, I think, but we're dealing with a horrific system. So yeah, but maybe it will work in a positive way here, in the sense that they know they've read the writing on the wall now, and they'll say, well, we've got to bite the bullet now. I've had this suspicion for a long time, and I know some other people feel the same from comments, is that they know the system knows where this is going. It's going towards exoneration. It's about what will be the minimum damage. How can they limit the damage? But obviously letting it drag out is exponentially increasing the damage. So they're in a bit of this tension position between thinking, well, we've got to make it look as though it wasn't a complete basket case, and obviously it's got to be exoneration automatically and quash the verdicts. It's got to have, again, back to storytelling, it's got to have the appearance as though it's hard to turn this tanker around, because it's a weighty thing in which all the evidence has to be reconsidered. And well, I mean, yeah, the true evidence has to be considered, i.e. the panel's reports, but the idea of going back to, well, what was Evans reliable? Was he always reliable? No, he's a basket case. It's trash. It's always been that. But they don't want to give the appearance of, God, we've let that go through. We've let that happen. I don't know if I'm making my point very clearly, but I know what I mean in my head. You know what I mean? They don't want to make it look, I don't want to make it feel and appear too easy, because that becomes furthermore damning on what they allowed to happen in the first place. Anyway, Ruth McCauley says, did care fertility start having high success rates with pregnancies? It's common with IVF to have multiple pregnancies. Right, so that's the connection, right? The possible connection of the care fertility department, increase of IVF leading to further multiple pregnancies. I remember putting in at least one main FOI with regard to comparing multiple births year on year, and they wouldn't give me any information. So it's hot information. They use the generic response of saying, oh, this will, because they're low numbers, it'll identify people. I don't buy that. And they used a secondary reason to deny giving in the information by saying that they're ongoing investigations, that old chestnut. But what they would not do is give comparative years in terms of multiple births at the neonatal unit. So I was asking for 2009 to 2024, but they did nada, nothing. Zilch. They wouldn't tell me anything. So and presumably they wouldn't tell anybody anything, not because it's me, obviously, it's just anybody. Yeah, 10 of the bay. Yeah, that's what I mean. We're looking at this, it's two-thirds. So that's, and that comes up in the iconic documentary that's discussed a lot there, this very large percentage of multiple pregnancies. Thank you, Ruth. Tracy says, Ruth McCauley, some babies born via IVF have more of a chance of problems during pregnancy and after birth. Yeah, so there's all these strands that can come into play there in terms of what's happened right back to conception, and then the obstetrics department, etc., concept all the way through. It's something that Dr. Michael McConville says in relation to, and he was talking specifically to do with a crash of a particular baby that was part of the indictment. He says, you know, that I'm trying to think of the exact quote now, but it's something like, when you see the result of something, it began along a considerable time before. It's a bit of a inelegant way of saying it, but he put it in this very elegant, direct way. It starts a long time before, you know, so with earlier signs. And as Dr. McConville's gone through all those, and as indeed Chris has on Lucy Letby analysis, in great detail, both of them, amazing work, and just showing the earlier signs, discussing those, and showing how they are give the lie to the refrain told by the prosecution that all the babies were stable. Not one neonatologist on an acute baby unit. No, that's right, Chris. I know. George RC says, do you think things will be exposed in the new things will be exposed in the near future? They could well be. This sort of thing that I mean, perhaps we can begin to talk a bit more in detail about the documentary as well. I think it gives people courage. You know, would Karen Rees have come on a documentary and talked it that way a year ago? No, she wouldn't have done. It's built, the courage is building up in people as they know that the wave is building and it's going to crest soon. And when it crests and falls, that would be the referral to the Court of Appeal, or the quashing of it. Yeah. The CCRC can't quash it, can they? It would be the Court of Appeal that does that. I can't see a lot of people have said this ad infinitum, but I can't see a retrial. There's a bit of an odd note in the other thing is that the loose women thing was very, very strong. I think we've got such a wide-ranging audience, and I noticed in some comments, some people said, "Oh, 50% of people still think she shouldn't have a new trial." So, and you extrapolate from that, they think she's guilty. But a year ago, 18 months ago, would it have been 50% saying give her a new trial? No, I think it would have been like 3% on a poll. I don't know that, but basing it on what we see on the internet, I suppose, and what you hear, and what the mainstream media were doing all through that period of time, to get to 50% is huge. It's massive. Just need 1 more percent, and you've got the preponderance of people in that as a sample size saying that they're not happy with the verdict, not happy with the convictions, is massive. So yeah, I think more things will be exposed, George, by virtue of people feeling more courage, and because they can see the way it's going, and they'll feel, well, I need to speak now. And fair enough, and maybe some of them could have spoken before, but as long as they do in the end, you know, and I think there's definitely more to say, there's more to come out. Tracy says, babies J and Q were twins when they were conceived, but their twins died during utero, and one was ectopic. Right, yes, thank you for for reminding us of that, Tracy. Yeah. Right. This seems to go into, I don't know to what degree it might do to this twin-to-twin TTPS. I've forgotten what the P stands for. The TTPS that Sarah Hawkins is talking about, and talked about again on the Iconic alongside Professor Gill. He's on his one of his websites. He's got quite an extensive article about that, written by both Sarah and himself. So, hi Tasha Create. Like Ike being an unreliable voice of conspiracy wackery. Well, I mean, this is Gareth Ike, his son, and but I, like anyone on the internet, I was just talking to my friend on the phone today. You know, you can't. I don't necessarily agree with anyone about everything, and why should you? But I kind of generally, I'm probably a bit of a bit of wackery going on for me as well. Loyal to the foil, as they say. But no, I do like Gareth Ike, and I think it's a good documentary, and I'm glad it was great to see Carl on there as well, and David Curtin, who was I don't know if you know David Curtin. He heads up the Heritage UK, I think it is, or the Heritage Party, a small party, political party, and he was very, very early on in showing his feelings of disquiet about this, you know. And just to mention, there's some other channels I've come across. There's a guy, he's a professor. Let me find where he's. A guy called Professor Tim Wilson. He's got a very large channel. He's mentioned this matter a few times about Lucy Letby, but he's just done one about in relation to Nadine Dorries. Nadine Dorries is still putting her viewpoints in here via the Daily Mail. So there's a channel called Professor Tim Wilson. So that's had 20,000 views. So there's lots of other things going on in that regard. Tea Break, Tasha done a brilliant video today. Tea Break with Tasha. There's been a great one from Stuart Gillam recently, and Mervyn's done some, and Black Squareable as well. Brilliant video. So there's lots going on. So I don't want to miss anybody out. Obviously, Carl's doing them as well. Mervyn, Stuart Gillam. Spoken Injustice is a great channel. Criminally undersubbed, as they say. It's fantastic. Spoken Injustice. And there was a new channel called who's done a couple on this, called Non-Woke Church. Very kind of emotional, and Jabe, of course, fantastic. I probably missed them out. And Old School RN as well. Check out Old School RN, who is a registered nurse of many years, and is also doing videos about this. So that's what I've been doing, keeping up with those as much as possible. Sorry if anybody want to come on? Anybody fancy it? You get a prize. You get a free Solero. How about that? What can I can't be fairer than that. Free Solero. Probably melt by the time it gets to you though, but it's the thought that counts. Liz says, J.R.M. will just go into his, I'm just a silly. Yeah, I'm a humble. Yeah, that's right. He's a humble man with nightmares. Yeah. What was I watching earlier today? Yeah, it was Tasha, Tea Break with Tasha. You know, this idea, this is the hysterical witness, you know. He's the hysterical witness. He's a man of science when he needs to be, and he's on top of all that. But when he's got the latitude to go into, as you're saying, I'm humble. I'm ever so humble. I'm a silly. I'm hysterical. Well, look at me. I'm all there. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know. It was all terrible. I don't know what to do. I know there's a murderer going on, but I didn't get the memo to know what to do about it. So I didn't say anything for 13 months. Didn't get the memo. You know, I didn't do the course. They didn't teach us that at medical school, that if somebody's murdering the patients, if they haven't told you what to do, you just keep storm. You don't do anything. Nothing. Sorry. I'll calm down. Anyway. Yeah, Mark Reynolds. Hi, Mark. the rumour that J.R.M. and Brewery had been suspended. Anyone? I don't know. Does anyone know the latest? Anybody in here? I'd love to hear any more. I don't know any more myself. Jenny says, yes, need the investigative journalist. Yeah. Was there medical research reason why so many multiples born at COCH? Well, yeah, there's all these strands, aren't there? And in relation to the what they call the network of the other hospitals in that area that are implicated in that as well, isn't it? It's not solely that hospital working in isolation. It's what's happening in that network and what decisions are made on that. Oh, and Jenny says, oh, and there's little to no info on maternal health. These women had very, very complicated pregnancies. Yes, they did, didn't they? And there was that awful one where the, is it PROM, P-R-O-M? The water's breaking and the lady was just sent home and then came back and for a huge amount of time, when increased the likelihood of infection greatly, didn't it? Just as one example of many, I think. Thank you, Jenny. Callan Gamp says, somebody else shortly after said in a video that they knew the doctors were still working and not on gardening leave. Right. Yeah, I don't know where. I mean, I remember doing a video about it because I'd been told they were on the gardening leave. Now, I don't know what their current status is. Am I putting in the right? Maybe I'm putting in the wrong. Anybody want to? This is my little trick to see if I can get anybody on. Can you just test it for me and see if I can get you on? Just a little test, and then you can come on. I'm feeling ever so lonely here. No, I'm not lonely because I've got the chat to keep me warm, and I really appreciate that you're all here. Got 73 people in the house, which is remarkable, really, for a Wednesday evening, a school night. But I think we're doing really well. I think everything is very, very positive. I know you can't rest on your laurels, and Chris on Lucy Letby analysis is like, he's like an absolute Trojan. He's like amazing, that his output and the depth and detail of his work is extraordinary. It's almost superhuman. I watch all his videos and done amazing work. He did a really good overview. I watched that analysis of the ITV documentary. I imagine some of you also did. Sorry, I'm getting well behind. Yoxall at Liverpool. Thanks, Jenny. Yoxall. I knew it was a funny kind of name. Yoxall, yeah. His mate. Brewery's mate, yeah. So yeah, let me try and catch up a bit. Anybody want to come on? Backwoods Bungalow, brilliant. Great name. Thank you. If that email which contradicts Dr. J's testimony was not made available to the defence, does it meet the appeal criterion of new evidence? I think it should. I mean, this whole idea of the new evidence is like this locked-in idea that it's got to be new and you've got to reinvent the wheel. It's all, the whole system's rotten to the core in that respect, and made just to protect itself so that you don't have retrials, and it shows that innocent people are being put in prison time and time and time again. That's the reason why it's there. They just don't want to be, they don't want oversight over it. That's why it's there. But yes, of course, I think it would, and any number of other things that have come out since absolutely would. Okay, just the first thing that springs into my mind is that the updating of the Lee and Tanswell paper, just that, for example, you know. But the whole notion of, you know, if on the day your representation doesn't do a good job, or it does a terrible job, that's it for you for life now. Because had you have had a better one on the day and it got that evidence for you, it's just sick. I mean, it just stuns me how sick it is that there's no morality in that way of thinking at all. To say we've got a system in which you're in a fight, somebody's fighting on your behalf. They weren't that good at fighting on your behalf. They could have done something that they didn't do. Now nobody can ever do it. Nobody can ever bring it to the table, even though it shows you're innocent. That concept, that idea can only be invented and prosecuted and kept up by a psychopathic mindset. There, I'm into me psychopaths again. But I just how I look at it, I'm afraid. This is why I've stopped making some videos, because I just get too angry. Anyway, Dr. Yoxhill, thanks, Showalter. Nice to see you. Thank you, Backwards Bungalow. Pat Chance, let me catch up a bit. I wouldn't leave my premature dog with Giant and Brewery. No, I wouldn't either. I wouldn't leave my what can I do? Can I top that? I wouldn't let him look after an Arctic roll. Come back and it'll all be like melted. Anyway, I'm being silly now. But you're right. Ruth Macaulay says, sorry, I'm spitting now. I think they went to COCH even though, this is the babies, they were high-risk babies, even though they were high-risk babies, because they were familiar with COCH from going to the care for fertility, right, at the women's and children's building, right? So there was this continuity of saying, well, that's where you're going to go then. There were some instances, weren't there, in which parents were expecting to go elsewhere for the births, weren't there? There were some instances, but maybe that's right. Maybe that's where the continuity comes in, Ruth. Callingamp says, they said they had a reliable source for that info. Is that back to Jairam and Breary being back at work? Right, well, that's, I don't know. Yeah, perhaps. Tasha creates. Ha ha, ha ha ha, he looks like the flashing type. Not yours, surely, but your man. Anyway, perhaps I'll skirt over that before we get a super injunction or something. Anyway, but I think you're right. Probably does. It looks like his kind of so I've got to stop it. You see, it looks like his kind of flashing. It looks like my kind of flashing. You know, my kind of flash. I thought no. Stop it, Mark. I shouldn't drink, should I? So Melanistic Marble says, if anybody wants to join, it's the StreamYard link at the start. Yeah, and I've been putting in throughout. Here's another. Thank you for that, Melanistic. Brilliant. Callingamp says, not on the gardening leave story. Yeah, understood. And that's if anybody knows anything more, that'd be great to hear. And you'll have heard it here first. Backwards Bungalow says, is there any process in Britain to require a review by another police force? I don't know about requiring one. I know instances when I've followed certain things and they end up doing that because either the family of the victim or the publicity around it have kind of pushed it in that direction, that there's no faith in the original investigating constabulary, so it ends up with someone else doing it. So, but as to whether there's a process to make that happen, I don't know. I mean, there probably should be, shouldn't there? There should be, yeah, there should be. Can you put a curly wig on? I can't concentrate. Yeah, I could, yeah. It's in the wash though. It's in the wash. That's the trouble. Look, you're driving me to drink, you lot. So, look, no, I'm really grateful you're all here, and I think I think things have moved on in a fantastic way, and fantastic to see Anouk's work come together like that, and the team she had, obviously, and all those people. Wasn't it amazing, that bit in the documentary about those the two scientists talking about I thought that was a standout bit for perhaps people like us who have been following it in depth. The insulin aspect to do with now let me think, how did they put it? It was because they're neonates, the insulin's building up in the body because it's attaching to aspects of the blood, isn't it? But it's not creating the in other words, you can get a very high insulin reading on the immunoassay, but it doesn't mean that the baby's in this ultra hypo, I'm forgetting some of the words, the very low sugar state where you should lead to collapse. You got the other aspect about that, which Shuley talked about, in that they said they were using the wrong technique, weren't they? They were giving, instead of this steady drip, they were giving these boluses of glucose, glycemic. I'm just forgetting words. I'm getting old, you see. They were giving that was the criticism Shuley made, wasn't it? That they were creating this not virtuous circle, this vicious circle of this an uncontrollable glycemic levels by giving intense boluses of sugar rather than a steadier drip. So there's that aspect to it as well. But anybody, I thought somebody was coming in then. I nearly got a shock. I just worry it's really, it might be a bit dull with just me talking on the screen. But anywho, the wig thing, yeah, that's, I'll work on that. Mark Reynolds. Hi, Mark. A friend suggested Masonry. I'm not normally a conspiracy theorist, but there is such a series of coincidental incompetence: Consultant, Hospital, Dowie, Hughes, Myers, Goss. Yeah, it does make you wonder, doesn't it? I know other people have mentioned that en route. There's definitely, there's meetings have been had at higher levels, shall we say, that I believe that's looking at this before the trial happened and looking at it now about all the implications of the exoneration. It's now what brings together all those components of those higher levels. Is it something like the Masons, or is it the power structures are there in other forms, aren't they, really, through the establishment as well? But maybe it's both. Maybe it's not either or, maybe it's both, if that makes sense. Backwards Bungalow says, does the appeal court have to wait for a referral by the CCRC? Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know. And there was some talk about, I can't remember the name of the title of the person in government it would have to be. Is it the Attorney General? That the government could step in. But you're not meant to the government's not meant to stray into the area of the judiciary, although of course they do all the time. And but I don't know about that. You'd hope so, wouldn't you? You'd hope so that the appeal court isn't as passive as to say, well, we're waiting for this obviously quite dysfunctional organisation called the CCRC, who messed up a lot and failed exponentially, signally failed over many years. We're waiting for them, otherwise we can't do nothing without them. That's how much we do. But it's these bloody processes and systems that are just, they're not human. They're not human based, you know. I'm not saying they're reptiles. I'm just saying that they're inhuman in their attitudes. And they don't give a toss whether somebody's in prison for life. This is a system allied to it that can put an innocent person in prison for a huge number of years and either give them no compensation when they're found to be innocent, as in Barry George, or they got the nerve that they want to charge them bed and board for being in prison. That's the kind of mentality we're dealing with. You know, what can I tell you? Nutters. Hi, Tom. Nice to see you there. Ruth McCauley. They wouldn't give you the FOI because the FOI would need to go to the care fertility, not the COCH. Right? Yeah, quite possibly. Yeah. Because I was just asking really with regard to numbers of twins and triplets that were cared for. So maybe there are other departments that would come into it and that they want to be more secretive about. Am I getting your meaning there, Ruth? That they want to, there's more secretive elements there, but they're keeping as much under wraps as possible and giving the standard basic reply of, that's the basic reply to so many of the FOIs is, don't you know there's an investigation going on? Don't you know that? Mark Reynolds says, sorry, I'm a bit behind. Biggest gig ever syndrome. Yeah, no interest. Dewey, Hughes, Goss, they all had much to gain from Lucy Letby's guilt. Myers had nothing to gain by getting her off. Did he throw it? I advise not calling expert. I advise not calling expert Lucy. Yeah, it's all going to come back to, well, you'd hope it would come back to really hold them all accountable, but many of them will skate. There'll be a principal person that they'll hang out, or one or two. Obviously Evans will be right at the centre of that, but someone like Goss won't feel any pain through this. I mean, there'll be people saying, what the hell was he doing, whatever, but he's on his way to retirement and possibly a peerage at some point somewhere, and a membership of some club somewhere. Does anybody watch, or have you ever watched Judge John Deed with Martin Shaw in the past, an old series? I've watched a few of them. My friend loves it, and that's about all that, the way the politicians kind of get the right judges, and in certain cases, and the politics of the whole system. And Judge John Deed, if we shouldn't have had Goss, we should have had Judge John Deed. We wouldn't have been where we are now. He would have chucked out Evans's bollocks as soon as looked at him. I know it's fiction, but you know, we should have had somebody decent, in other words. But where can I watch the iconic documentary, please? Yeah, I put up a link earlier. Let me do it again. I'll put the link. I'll put the link below there. Julie. Hi, Julie Wheeler. So I'm just putting the link there now, Julie Wheeler, in the chat. It's a bit below where you've asked that question because I'm a bit behind. Rudy Dub. Hi, Rudy. I can't see a retrial either. Right there. I can't see one, Rudy. I think the prosecution will not have any reliable expert. Well, precisely. They're up against, well, you know, nothing against the plumber, but he's a professional witness, as they call them, professional witness and expert witness. But they weren't up against any expert witnesses before. So they're going from zero to like the best team in the world, you know. It's it's just ridiculous. You can't imagine it. It's not going to happen. Successfully challenge the expert panel, exactly, and Professor Lee. Totally agree with that. The Next Realm. Hi, The Next Realm. Nice to see you. I don't think a Masonic element can automatically be brushed off, as Breary himself. Oh, yes, that's right. Thanks for reminding us that, or reminding me anyway, because I'd forgotten that. He said, Breary, so Next Realm says, Breary himself said at Thirlwall that Masons were involved. It's, what's that? Not duping delight. It's that thing, leakage, isn't it? It's leakage. One of them was Stephen Cross. Can't remember the other man's name. It's leakage in the sense that he's throwing that out there in terms of, this is what we were up against. Poor us, you know, poor us. Poor me, poor Ravi. And we're up against the Masons here. But it could well be it's the other way around, isn't it? Projection. That's what we're talking about. So anywho. Mandy Oliver. Hi, Mandy Oliver. 74 people in the house. Anybody want to come on? Please do. Mandy Oliver says, surely quashing her conviction over a retrial would be better so far as the cost of the taxpayer. Yeah, it's just unnecessary, isn't it? So much wasted money on the trials. Great documentary, I thought. I did as well, Mandy. I thought it was really good, really paced at the right level. You know, if they'd gone in too hard on Evans, it's not that it wouldn't be right, or the police or the CPS. It's better to let the audience go, oh God, that for them to infer it. We don't need to spell it out what they've done in that sense. You know, it's better. It's more powerful, isn't it? That the audience goes, oh my God, it's not right what they've done. It's not right. It doesn't make any sense. Rather than hammering or assuming that they know too much or blasting them with stuff. So I thought it was really, really well done. Tasha says, David Icke's got two sons. I mean, this is Gareth Icke. I mean, I like David Icke as well, but I haven't watched him for quite a while. But I mean, I like him. A lot of the stuff he said is, I don't want to go too much of a segue on it, but yeah, this is Gareth Icke. Seems like a really decent guy, nice guy, and Carl Perkins is on there as well. You'll know, and Richard Gill, Sarah Hawkins that has been on the live here a while back. Ruth McCauley says Simon Medland. Oh, I forget. Yeah, is the leader of the Masonic Freemasons in Cheshire. He was the first legal point of contact for advice about the case. So was he the Was he a barrister? Was he a barrister? Was he the barrister that the hospital used, Ruth? There's so many names on there. Was he the QC at the time or something? Was before it was the king came along, wasn't it? Sausage fingers. Sorry to any royalists. Sausage fingers. Before he came along, he was like the QC, Simon Midland, for the trust. Is that right? And they asked for his advice. I think that's right. Rudy Dub says, what expert will the prosecution ever be able to put forward to withstand this new defence in a retrial? I don't say, well, none, zero, zilch. Nothing. Like, they ain't got nothing. It's like it'd be like putting some, I don't know, I don't know the names of these like lower division teams, like this kind of, like some, I'm not really that into football, but some pub team to face Brazil or something like that. It's just, or whatever other analogy you can think of, you know. Charles Hawtrey against Mike Tyson, whatever. It's not going to it's not going to work. They're not going to do it. YH Watch, Professor Wilson was good. Oh, Professor Wilson. I'm not sure which one that is. That the what's it? Is that the oh god, I can't think of the word. Criminologist guy. Anybody want to come on? He said plaintively. Liz says, Mark, you're one of the very few first people who got the cogs turning to get this case where it is today. You're very courageous. Oh, thank you very much. Thanks very much, Liz. Well, it was just, this is a weird thing that came up, and iconic in the video. They're talking about Science on Trial, which had another inception before it was called that. It was Rex versus Lucy Letby, wasn't it? Was it Rex versus Lucy Letby on Facebook? I discovered that afterwards, but strangely enough and ironically enough, I had been listening. I'd been following it on various channels, the trial, and including our mate, courtroom to crime scene, or whatever it's called, you know, our mate. Because when he was just reporting it then, that's what he was doing, but I was listening in other sources as well. But anyway, yeah, and then we all began to. This has been a process of people finding each other, isn't it, over various platforms, Facebook originally, and YouTube, and whatchamacallit. And I believe Chris and Jabe are really getting some serious numbers of views out on TikTok as well, aren't they? Which is fantastic. Did some really short, concentrated bits, you know, a fantastic team, and with Jabe doing some very concentrated short bursts of some of Chris's work as well. So they're doing some amazing stuff there, and obviously Jabe's also helping to promulgate Dr. McConville's amazing work, and there was the Peter Elston and Dr. McConville podcast before that. There's been a hell of a lot. Another really early node point on Twitter back in the day. I think it was probably, and it came off the back of Dr. Scott McLachlan's Substack work, that he eventually did this. It wasn't originally released on YouTube, but it was on Twitter. It was that 40-minute discussion that Dr. McLachlan was having with Norman Fenton, and then that ended up getting about 50,000 views really quite quickly, and that was a really strong node point then. And then obviously into the next year, then it's the New Yorker was big, wasn't it? The New Yorker was huge. Oh, sorry, that didn't work. I was trying to. Jairam is more of an actor than a paediatrician. Yeah, apparently somebody said he's still taking acting lessons. So, oh God. Oh, you're just saying that. Sorry, I've just read ahead. I thought ahead rather than reading. He takes acting lessons apparently, hence his appearance in court. Well, yeah, he's sort of. Yeah, I don't know what to say about it. It's like. It's a kind of element of farce, isn't it? It's dark farce, but it's And all the clown stuff is weird, isn't it? And I know it's for charity and all that, and then the band and then the taking the top off and I mean, the great person for really revealing all that stuff and putting it so amazingly is the Ducking Stool channel. Amazing satirical work there on the Ducking Stool channel, with the excerpts from Downfall, everything, you know. Just incredible work. But anyway, and Stuart Gillham's really knocking it out of the park with his videos. He just goes into one person. He just did a video on in respect of Dr. B. Really recommend that if you haven't seen it as well. Rudy says the legal system likes finality over the correct result. Absolutely, yeah. They just want it to put to bed. They just hit. Thirlwall's response of it being noise is what the whole system is. You know, it's either an appalling vista or it's noise. In other words, it's something you don't want to hear, something you don't want to see. That's what an appalling vista is. That you mustn't see it. It mustn't be allowed to be seen. I'm probably gabbling a bit now, aren't I? Off license, great name. I just went down the off license earlier. One point I thought about while watching the doc, this is the ITV one, I suppose, is whether these anonymity orders are permanent. Are they? Can they be challenged? I don't know. That's a really good question. Can they be challenged? We kind of we know who they all are, basically, but maybe not some of the nurses, but we know all the doctors are. We know the names and everything. I know there's a court order and all that, but can they ever be challenged? Yeah, what would the basis be? You know, I don't know if retrospectively they'd have to kind of undo the justification and say, well, it's no longer. Once the exoneration happens, and that's my mindset, is that I'm not saying when, it's what or if. It's once it has happened, and it will, absolutely will, 100%. Just about when, it's just about how long they're going to drag it out. Then the story for mainstream media is going to be digging into all these people. I think it will be, at least to a degree anyway. Whether they go to all the anons, I don't know. They might do. Sorry, I'm way behind in the comments. I'm probably taking too long to. Got it. I'm 1 hour 22. Shall I carry on? Is it going a bit long? YH in the States. I'm not sure what YH. What does that mean? Sorry, Rudy. YH in the States. They have ineffective assistance of counsel. Oh, right. Yes, as a grounds of appeal. I think we have that as well. Don't we? Don't we have that? The counsel was ineffective. I think we have that. Yeah, I believe that you have that. Yeah, I think we do. They didn't go down that road. They did go with some of the procedural elements of what Goss did, didn't they? They did that, and they certainly did that in the appeal for the Baby K case, didn't they? So they did try that, but that didn't have any purchase at all. Hi, Henry Macaulay. I really hope Lucy has some hope for the future now. I hope so too, and I really think this is all going to be getting back to the people who work in the prison, the prison officers, the governor, the other prisoners. I've had this sense, and I hope I'm right, or not about being right, but I just hope it is happening. Is that, and I'd like to think this is happening, is that she's protected in there by other prisoners who get it, who know, who can feel it instinctively, that they know that. And I've always hoped that that is the case, that a lot of them I've got more sort of street sense and more kind of instinctive sense to know that they're dealing with someone who shouldn't be there, and who hasn't done what they've said at all, and that she's innocent. And I'd like to think that she's got people on her side there in that respect. Hi, Christopher Smith. That's nice to see you as well. Let me get through some. Lorraine. Hi, Lorraine. You shouldn't stop making videos. We all love it. Thanks, Lorraine. Yeah, I wasn't sure what to do. Anything new to say exactly. I'm following all the videos that are being made as much as I can. Well, pretty much all of them. Yeah, all of them really. The ones I can see. Lots of great ones out today. But yeah, I thought this live thing was, I hadn't planned it. I never do. I just thought it's an opportune moment to do this live thing that other people can talk and have a conversation about it because of that documentary, and because of the I don't know how many of you saw the loose women discussion, which is really, I thought that was very, very, very strong as well. And particularly Mariella Frostrup, I thought she was the strongest speaker on it, really. She kind of led it in that way, and with great clarity and purpose. Jenny, Ruth is posting outstanding insights. Yeah, absolutely. Very much agree, Jenny. Rudy Dub is saying, there is a provision in the CCRC ability to refer of exceptional circumstances, not just new evidence. Right, well, that's great. That's fantastic as well. Yeah, you'd hope so. I mean, there's new evidence and there's exceptional circumstances and there's a bogus judge and there was a, well, I'm not sure Mark MacDonald would want to, certainly based on his public statements. You understand why. Is it is not right for him to have a go at Benjamin Myers in any way at all, and he's not going to do that, and it just probably wouldn't work within that system anyway to do that. It would work against Lucy probably to do that within that system. Carl, hi. They left so much on the cutting room floor. They wouldn't have taken up much time. Lord Justice Justin's scathing findings on Dewey, yeah, that's true, as being biased and his evidence as being worthless was an obvious one. Yeah, that would have been good to put in. I do take your point, and I feel that as well. I suppose I think they were trying to, I mean, I don't know, this is my supposition, is that they were walking a line in which they don't want to be seen as, oh, well, we're not on the attack here, we're going to let you draw the conclusions here based on, and their trump card is really the science, the medical team, the crack world-class team. That's what it really is about, you know, and stuff about the bogus statistics as well, of course. And they got Professor Hutton on there as well, haven't they? But the big guns, and the way this is going to lead to exoneration. I was just thinking about this earlier, is not that, in a way, trying to think the best way to say this, it's not about saying Lucy didn't do it. It's got nothing to do with that. I mean, I'm kind of got to say that as well, but that's not the tip of the spear, because the tip of the spear is that there weren't any crimes, there weren't any murders. Then you don't have to say, by the way, she wasn't the person who didn't do the murders that didn't happen. And that's why it's all about Shuley and the panel in that sense, because the way the system wants to fight against it is surely, well, if not her, then who is it then? Who did it then? If it's not her, who did it? Who else was on duty? And you're stuck in that loop then. It's all about the fact there were no crimes, and then you don't have to consider about pajamas and Facebook searches and what's in the gutter and what somebody and coming back with a bang, and what your affect was like in the court. None of it matters. None of it matters. It just scorch earth. It scorches all the earth. It's gone. All those other considerations are completely irrelevant. But I know what you mean in terms of Evans's credibility. I think you're right there, Carl, that a lot of the general public probably wouldn't be aware that leading, that leading quote unquote expert witness for prosecution had a ropey record in which a judge had said his work was worthless. Off license says insulin profiles and behaviors for adults and not neonates. Exactly. Yeah, that's huge, isn't it? That's huge. And that's the profile, but it's also that it's not the right test. It's not like that. The American guy says in it, these aren't, the immunoassay isn't of a sufficient standard to fire somebody from a job or get them done for cheating in some sport. It's not even up to that standard. So, but they're using it here to put somebody in prison for life. Oh, thanks, Jenny. Oh yeah, sorry, you're right. Thanks so much for that, Jenny. Yeah, because I think I did another copy and paste of something else. So invite guest. I think I have been posting the link to the stream a few times, but then in the interim, I think I copied and posted a Facebook, not Facebook, a YouTube link. But thank you for reminding me that. So this one now, we love you talking. Oh, thank you. That's I just don't want to bore you all to death with my. Thanks for that, Jenny. Really appreciate that. He missed my nudge, Jenny. Oh, did you nudge me as well? Sorry, you missed my nudge. Oh, so I'm missing the nudges now. This is bad. I'm going to get the sack. Regarding retrial, I've heard of the prosecution offering no evidence in case. Yeah, exactly, Callangam. Yeah, we're not going to contest it. Mervyn's in the house. Yeah, I'm just going to finish off reading this now, and I'm going to add the Mervyn. And cases being dismissed forthwith, perhaps a technical necessity in some situations. Absolutely, Callangam. I might. So we're going to get Mervyn on, and I'll try to keep my eye on the chat as well. But we'll just see how what Mervyn's mind. Welcome, Mervyn, to the.
Hi.
Hi, how you doing? Nice to see you.
Yeah, good to see you. Yeah. So I missed. I pretty much only just arrived. I missed the first hour.
You're fashionably late.
Yeah.
To the party. I hope you brought a bottle or something. Or some matchmakers or something like that. I don't know.
But you were just talking about the loose women.
Yeah, what do you make of that?
Well, it's interesting because loose women, of course, were one of the many that were cited at the appeal for basically causing bad influence on members of the public when they did a show called, I think it was something like Was Lucy Born Evil or something.
Oh God, really? Oh God.
Yeah.
Oh no, I didn't know that. So that's really, it's almost like, I don't know what it is. It's like gamekeeper turned poker, but it's a switcheroo now then, isn't it? In that sense, they might be, they're coming in for the win now. But that's what I think. A lot of that will happen as well. And I don't know if you saw Chris's comment. I mentioned it earlier in the stream that he says, like, he wouldn't be surprised even if Judith Morris, because she's got this thing coming out next week.
Yeah, I saw from Carl Perkins mentioned that there's a documentary coming up, and he said either way, whether she doubles down or if she does a full 180, it's going to be funny either way.
Yes, she can only go to, in a sense, she can only go to an extreme because she's really pushed it in one direction so far but kind of being the BBC, they might try to find some way of finessing it. And I think that's what Chris of Lucy Letby Analysis was sort of saying, that I should kind of say, well, yeah, I've been here all the way along and I've just followed it. I've just followed where the evidence has led. And now this has taken me here. And now I realise that, of course,
she does like to put on a front of neutrality.
Yeah. And maybe that will. But the book's coming out as well with three. Catherine told me that. Friend Catherine emailed me that the book's coming out 3 days after this next documentary next week.
Whose book? Sorry.
Oh, sorry, Judith Morris's book. Apparently, yeah.
Oh, a new book by Judith.
I think
Morris.
so. Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, I don't know. That's what I was told.
Oh,
I hope that's right. Maybe I've got that wrong then. But anyway, because the book had come out already, hadn't it?
Yeah, she done.
Is there a new book? Is there a new book then? Is there a new book? Maybe there isn't.
I know Chris is publishing a book.
Chris is doing it, but that's going to be out next year, I think, isn't it?
I think Dr. McConville writing a book as well. From
No, he's published his, isn't he? That's
is
out
it
there
out?
already. Yeah, that's out there
Read
already.
that.
It got really. I followed it when it first came out, and it really went up the charts in the Kindle charts. You know, really. I think it was only on Kindle because he said all the references he had to put. Sorry, chat, if I'm not keeping up, but Dr. McConville said there were so many references, it would have ended up being like a, like a 3-foot deep book, and it too expensive to produce, essentially, I think.
Right, and also I suppose if he wants to put loads of like links, then it doesn't really work in paperback, I guess.
Exactly, it just would have been the practicalities of it wouldn't have worked. So, what's your overall view? I'll try and get back to the chat in a second. Sorry, chat. What's your overall feeling about the ITV documentary as a kind of?
Overall, it was great. I thought. I mean, to us, there was no new information, but
No.
The newspapers and the general public seem to be billing it as a documentary with stunning new revelations, which are, I guess there's new revelations to them. There were a couple of things. Obviously, what they done really well was covering the 4 key components, and there's no way they could cover everything. So, that people are going to say, "Oh, you should have said this, should have said that." We'd be watching it for 12, 24 hours if they were going to cover everything. I mean, if I wanted to nitpick, they meant there was a bit where they mentioned about Facebook searches and taking handover sheets home, and then they never actually addressed. They sort of left that hanging with the Facebook searches.
Yes. That's right.
But I mean, other than that, I was pleased with. They showed the human side of, Karen Reese and her friend Dawn. So I mean, it was great. And what's interesting is the reaction from the public. So many comments now you'll read, and it will say they've come out to say, I always thought there was something fishy about the case. I always thought this. Always thought that, and it's like they were afraid to say it until now. And just a couple of hours ago, the Daily Mail have put out a story where it says Peter Hitchens now believes Lucy was innocent. Well, I mean, we know that he's sort of believed that, but officially he's always said, I just think it should be a fair trial.
Yes, that's right.
But now people are comfortable enough to say, I think she's innocent. People, they don't have to keep it to themselves, which people have been.
That's absolutely right. I've got that sense. I've seen many of those kind of comments. I saw one that, I don't know, it struck me in a slightly different way because of the phrasing of it. And it said, I could really feel, I assume I could feel the person's kind of quandary, because they said, this is so confusing. It was under the full documentary.
That, I think, yeah.
This is so confusing. I thought she was guilty. Now I'm not so sure. And I thought that was very strong in its way. It doesn't sound like it's like a slam dunk, but I think that's the turning that this kind of the level of this documentary, that's the target audience, to get those people to that point, and then they begin to think, and then they're tipping over into looking into it more, perhaps, as well.
And about the loose women thing, I mean, I need to practice what I preach, because I've always been saying, look, when people do convert to our side, you've got to forgive and forget, but I can't help but troll them myself. I've been putting up comments about pajamas and things like that.
I saw that one. I think I can't remember who responded to, someone we know, but they said, I downvoted your comment.
She's good. She is, that lady. I can't remember, turquoise something. She's
turquoise blue. Yeah, turquoise blue.
Yeah.
And that's funny. And because I saw that as well, and it's the kind of, weirdly though, that is the kind of comment that the hard bitten ones that don't want to give the ground away, they're going to go, yeah, Mervyn's got a point there. Yeah, you know, you still haven't solved that for us. You still
No, but so I mean, so what I've always tried to preach is, look, people are gonna, when people do get educated, you know, you need the public support and you've got to embrace it. But I mean, there's also this other part of me, like, God, you know, you should have known. It's not what one of the loose women was saying. You know, we weren't informed. We weren't informed. Well, you were. You just weren't listening. And you know, I've got these two voices in my head. One of them wants to forgive, and then another one wants to have a go at them. Say, you know, we were trying to tell you this all along.
That's right. I thought I said it earlier in the stream when before you came in about. I thought that the real sorry. Yeah, where were you? No, the thing I just thought the main one was the driver was Mariella Frustrup. I think she's really in on it. She's really in on it and kind of pulling the other ones along to an extent. And it's not that they're that reluctant, but I think she was the one. I don't know. She had a real clarity about what she was saying about it. I think she looked into more of it and thought more about it. I felt. I remember from ages ago, she used to do like arts programs on Radio 4 and stuff like that.
I can't wait till is it Jeremy Vine, because they've been having.
Oh God, yeah, because they get some real. They get some real.
That woman, I can't remember what her name is.
Carol Malone.
That's it, Carol Malone. Yeah, who's an absolute guilter. Oh, I want to.
Yeah, she's quite vicious, and but I really, you know, with the, I think it's really significant. People may think, oh well, I was loose women. It's really, really significant because of the audience, the core audience. It's a massive reach, and I think it's the kind of thing where people, and I know this sounds really crude and it shouldn't be about this, but people want a new story about it, and that's what's being created. And
I underestimated how much of an impact it would have, because I wasn't really sure how many people still watch TV, but I mean, it's obviously great the impact that's had.
Yeah, and you know, from what they say on it, it's off the back of Anouk's documentary. So that's done fantastic. I mean that, and you've got the Guardian, which hasn't always been with the Guardian you've had Felicity Lawrence has done some good reporting in the Guardian, hasn't she?
Some great pieces from the Guardian.
They have been,
and it kills me to say it as a Reform member.
Yeah. So what was I going to say? There's so many ways we could go down with this, but I just let me just do a few little things. And this might bring up some things we can talk about as well with the chat. We were onto the subject of Freemasonry earlier. Freemasonry. It's now, I suspect it's Letby and her generous use of Datix reporting as to why she might have been found to be a whistleblower. So off license is saying it's less a kind of a group tentacle thing. It's more about her, Lucy Letby. What would you think about that, Mervyn?
Yeah, that's always been a fairly good suggestion. Yeah, about her doing things by the book.
It has.
Being goody two shoes.
And I don't know if you saw Stuart Gillam's recent video when he goes into Dr. B.
Yeah, I did.
And he does something. I love his videos, and he talks about the idea, and he acknowledges it in it. It's towards the end. He says this is speculation, but it was like in relation to Baby O. He says maybe Dr. B owed him one in terms of what happened in 2014 with Baby Noah. So there's that element. We don't know much about Dr. B, but she's there everywhere. But we don't know. We kind of know she's like a shadow that moves through this. And I think she's part of the build-up to it.
On Loose Women, one of them said there needs to be an inquiry into how this, if she is freed, there needs to be an inquiry into how this all happened, and I was like, yes,
Yeah, I
another
know.
inquiry.
Yeah. It's the Thirlwall inquiry. You know, the one that. Yeah, that's what it is. But that's doing something else. Yeah, that was. I forgot her name. Janet Street Porter said that.
Oh, was it Janet? Yeah.
That's Janet Street Porter. But then she kind of rescued it herself, as it were, a bit later on, because she starts saying something, but we don't want a trial if it's going to be too expensive. Well, you know, what price justice, really? You've already pissed up like 20 million up the wall anyway. And if there was a retrial, you're not going to have to pay for any more prosecution experts, because nobody's going to appear for you.
I don't think there'll be another retrial.
I don't think there will be as well. E-Symmetry says Michael McConville said that he has seen so much more, but is not at liberty to discuss. And well, Chris often says that as well. He knows stuff that he's not allowed to talk about. I trust his judgment, but I'm curious. I was waiting for his and Peter Elston's episode 21. Right, E-Symmetry. Yeah, I'm sure some people in this, not myself, and I don't know about Mervyn, but I think there are some people who are privy to the things that we're not privy to, I guess, and maybe Dr. McConville and Chris is, and talk to other people. Quite possible, isn't it? We don't have the contacts. I suppose I haven't sort of like interviewed anyone or like in that respect involved in it, but a lot of people just don't want to talk though, do they? On the record, would they?
I think maybe they're just afraid of messing up anything for the defence.
That's true as well. That, you know, you could do something. You could go wrong here, and that's why I thought that ITV documentary. I understood what. Sorry if I forgot who said it. Gentleman said it earlier on. Or they could have said about a former judge that said that Evans's work is worthless. The previous case, but that you got the time issue. But I think they made a decision, whether explicitly or implicitly, they made this decision not to go too much on the attack, but really just to let the audience begin to work out this different story. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think so. But there's, like I say, there's also you can't put everything in, can you?
Yeah, you can't put everything in. It's but I think within 59 minutes they did really, really well. And the structure of it was good. So Rudy Dubbs says, I don't think the Court of Appeal can review itself without the proper application. All archaic rules of process designed to make it hard. This is a feature, not a bug. Do you know anything more about that, Mervyn, whether the Court of Appeal can independently step in outside of the CCRC?
No, I've got no extra legal knowledge, sorry.
I don't know that. There was some talk some time ago about the government's got this mechanism to step in some way. I don't know, the Attorney General or some kind of supra power can step in.
Well, do you remember just after the Shuley conference, and Jonathan joined us for a live stream, and then like the question was asked, you know, there was the big conference, you know, so look, there's no murders, and then like the question was, how long is it going to take? And I so naively said, like, 2 months she'll be out, because I just thought the public would get engaged, and then there'd be no way that you know, I thought everything would be fast tracked. There would be no way that she would still be inside. They would put up with this, and then here we are. Like, what is it?
5 or 6 months.
6 months later, and she's still inside, and it's still with the CCRC. Like, you know, so I don't know.
No, I was saying earlier, I don't know if you agree. I just don't think there's some level here, both the institution of the CCRC and the system as a whole, the idea they would kind of like snap into it and make it all happen would shine such a terrible light on what they've done that it's so easy to correct it, as it were, that they've done something so egregious They've got to make it look as though this is a hard ship to turn around.
Yeah,
in some way to kind of give them the sense that they're still serious players in this, you know.
Yeah.
So
no, I get that.
Off license says, mind you, I would like a thorough investigation into the boyfriend doctor claim. This is Dr. A. I nearly said his name then. I better not. Yeah, better not say that. I've done. Am I still doing the bloody same? No, StreamYard. I'm putting it in. Anybody else wants to join us? Please say any other things you want to say about the documentary, or the. Have you seen the iconic one? Did you see the iconic one?
Yeah, it's all right. Yeah, I was impressed with Carl Perkins in that one. Actually,
yes, it was very good. Yeah, and I think that's being shadow banned because it's on about 1,300 views, and I thought, and Iconic's got about 20,000 followers. You know.
Yeah, no, but they're on. David Icke's stuff is on lots of different alternative platforms, so it sort of reaches like a different audience, if that makes sense.
Do you think it might be? Is it on Rumble and stuff like that?
Yeah, and all these sort of backstreet platforms and things, you know.
Backstreet Boys, yeah.
Well, they've got their own little ways of getting podcasts and things.
Well, hopefully, yeah. Maybe it's on Twitter. I'm not on Twitter anymore. So Carl says, I think it's fascinating that something like 12 neonatal wards are under investigation for failings. Is that current then, including Bradford, where my friend works as a midwife and Leeds? Is that the current situation, Carl, then, that 12 are under investigation? Do you know about that, Mervyn?
I saw there was, I know there was at least one that it was on in BBC News.
Yeah,
and I think I put up some silly post saying I'd have blamed it on a nurse.
I remember that.
A serial killer or something. So, yeah, I mean, it's not surprising, is it?
It's not surprising, and this has always been my sort of bit of a theory, really. That is that there would be a well, especially because they've drawn so much attention to it, that it would be the first domino to fall, is to realise that the state of neonatal care and all the unnecessary deaths would be COCH, and then things follow through from that, potentially across the whole country, and then back in time as well. You know, I mean, you know, that FOI I did, and there's 18 live medical negligence cases going on with COCH right now in relation to neonatology.
Yeah, but that didn't. There was problems with, because you don't know how long they're sort of going on for, so you don't know when they started, and they could have been going on for ages, and
it's really tricky, that, because and it all comes down to the I hope this is not boring, but it all comes down to the sections, because before, it was only in 2024, I think it was, 2024, they started that new code for neonatology in terms of cases being brought. Prior to that, it was subsumed into obstetrics.
Oh, yeah, right.
But yes, indeed, we don't know the origin and the date of the original, because they can drag on for years, can't they? So yeah, but but there's still issues there, even though it's a level 1. So, but like you say, maybe some of them go back. Well, some of them go back possibly to the 2015, 2016, then, to the operative period. I don't know. Carl says both have a higher death rate than per thousand the COC did in 2016, in 2019, for example.
Well, we know Countess of Chester wasn't an outlier.
No, that's right.
So that means that we know there were higher death rates elsewhere. That's what that means.
Yes, that's right. I mean, just thinking back to the Iconic thing, there was a gentleman on it, and he's making some great points. I've not seen him before. He's a journalist guy, Dr. something. I think he makes a misstep when he says there were more deaths in 2019. I think he's got the wrong data there. But then, having said that, I don't trust the FOI data, full stop. But he kind of makes a point in the iconic program that there were more deaths in the neonatal unit in 2019, and I don't think he can legitimately say that. So we're down to the statistics problems there. Thanks, Julie. There were 34 neonatal deaths in 2015, 2016 at East Kent Trust. Thanks, Tracy. I suppose we've got to consider, though, what's the overall intake?
Yeah.
What's the percentage? Is it a like-for-like comparison? And but that is interesting to hear that, though, those kind of figures. Is there any info on how Lucy is faring in this nightmare? I've not heard anything. Have you, Mervyn?
I mean, all we've got from the papers is how she's playing Uno with her friends, and there's been some really silly stories in the red tops and the trash newspapers, and I don't quite know why. Like, is it just anything with the word Lucy Letby in and it gets a click? I don't know. Some of the stories have been really silly.
Oh, absolutely. It's as banal as that. It's the same in the same sense. It's really, in terms, it's a business for them, obviously. So it's anything that will get eyeballs or people to buy something or click on or get a subscription or whatever it is. Yeah, it's all, that's the driver, isn't it?
I have actually been really impressed with the comment section. Like when you go on the Daily Mail, you can see their comments on their website, and when they put up the photo and the headline saying, you know, Lucy Letby attended a wedding with a photo of her dancing, most of the comments on there were, well, yeah, you know, what's she supposed to do? Sit in the corner and be miserable?
Yeah, for 3 years.
And I was really impressed with the people's sensible reactions to these silly stories. Like, no one's buying it. No one's falling for it. I don't know, the newspapers think we're stupider than the general population I'm talking about. You know, there's people seem to be more based than they realise.
You're absolutely right. This came up earlier on, and I remember I did mention you about a couple of different things, but one of the things I do remember you putting out, I think it was a post. You said this seems to be the red tops, or the takeaway is that it's all about the wedding photograph. And we had an earlier discussion before you came on the stream, and it was the idea of maybe it was a bit of a risk to do that. But I think, and they try to grab for it, and they try to turn it into look at the serial killer at a wedding, basically. Look how monstrous this person is. But like you're saying, the people, it's turning, isn't it?
You look at the comments, and people aren't having it.
Well, that's great. That's fantastic. And the loose women poll, I don't know how many, it would have been in many thousands. It could have been in the tens of thousands, who knows, probably in many thousands. 50-50 is great. I think 50-50 is great at this point. I think it's because what would it have been a year ago, you know?
Yeah, I don't, with that audience. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you got to consider the audience.
You have, but so are you saying by that you think 50-50 is good for that audience?
Yeah, for that audience where they've been preconditioned with.
Yes, I absolutely agree. I absolutely agree.
Material.
Yeah, there's very few people in that audience watching Lucy Letby analysis, is there?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Or listening to Dr. McConville or whomsoever, Professor Gill. So, yeah, it's a kind of it's almost like working on the gut instinct stuff. People's gut instincts are, but like you said earlier, you know, is it the case that, like so many things, people might have had reservations, but they didn't want to say it in case people thought less of them, well, like some of the backlashes we've had is the idea, you're speaking up for this murderer. Is it, you love baby killers? Is it, you know?
Well, I don't know. When we went to the protest, we didn't really get much backlash, did we? I mean, there was the odd person shouting something, but other than that, I mean, we got more cheers than anything.
Not in the in the pub it was different. Then afterwards some other stuff happened, and maybe I was walking to the hope.
Yeah, but I mean at the actual protest.
I think it was absolutely minimal. It was minimal, really, absolutely, almost nothing really against it.
And you could consider that in the heart of enemy territory.
I suppose so. It's just. I think once people are really, and this is why Loose Women is so important. I think once people are beginning to, the idea that somebody's been so, and this has been the drivers for us, somebody's been so terribly unfairly treated. Once people get hold of that, like they did in a sort of more pre-internet time with the Birmingham 6, once that kind of energy starts happening, it just snowballs, I think. And that's what it did with them, didn't it? And I think it speeded up the process of the internet being here, has speeded it up. Otherwise, if there'd been no internet and all that stuff, all the different sources coming together, it might have been like 10, 12 years, it much slower burn probably.
I mean, why do people think that all of these people have gone up to Liverpool to protest for a serial killer when we've got nothing to do? We don't know her personally. We're not. I mean, I've got a normal day job, police vetted. You know, why do they think that people are doing this? Did they? You know, people aren't crazy, are they?
They're not crazy, and that, but just trying to follow the track through from the ITV thing now to Loose Women. Mariella Frostrup kept hammering home the idea, and other people echoed it there. This is about, actually, look at all the experts all over the world, what they're saying now. It's a movement that is backed by, as people see it, an authority or layers of authority that it might not have had before, you know, at such a level. But like you said, it's had that since.
Since Shu Lee, really, since February.
But it had to have the right outlet. I mean, maybe not that many people watch that as we might have thought, and maybe as kind of counterintuitive as it might sound, it needs to come through a kind of daytime TV to get it out almost.
Yeah, because I was trying to remember if the Shu Lee conference was actually broadcast on normal TV, and perhaps it wasn't.
I think excerpts of it were. There were reports done of it, so maybe it was kind of like broken up in the sense that
it was in the news, but perhaps the whole thing, because it was, what was it, an hour long or something? Yeah, maybe it wasn't on national TV. So
I'm not. I think however it happened, they undercut the power of it by not presenting it all. Had they presented it all as a standalone program on the BBC, just watch this for an hour, that would have had a massive impact. But they deliberately didn't want that to happen. I don't think the BBC, you know, but that's another. But Ruth McCauley's saying here, Judges Goss and Medland both went. Also Medland is this guy, what the QC or KC working for COCH, went to boarding school syndrome. Did they develop a hatred of mother figures that Lucy Letby represented because they hated their mothers for abandoning them? Possibly, yeah, it's possible. Yeah, I mean, there's probably Evans is not a normal bloke by any stretches of the imagination. He's not a normal bloke. He's an aberration. That's my view, anyway. He's not some guy who's just like doing his best in life. He's fucked up in some way. That's my view. But now, whether it's to do with what, I don't know. Carl Sinclair. the thing about the stats is great because they still only framed her for 7 deaths, but there were 18. Yeah, I'm still unsure about how many deaths took place.
Yeah, I remember when I went through the original chart on the deaths, and then there were so many of them. This is from the Thirlwall inquiry, not the Hummingbird one, and there's so many at the top of the deaths. It says INS, insignificant and whatever, and it's like, well, why, why not those? Why are we not including? Why are they insignificant?
They're insignificant because, as Evans said in his very, very early post-trial interviews, they died of all the usual things. And this is what he's kind of said roughly. All the usual things, infection, and he included infection, even though he didn't know there was Pseudomonas on there, obviously as a bedrock of probably causing many of the infections there. It's not the only game. It's not the only aspect to it. Of course, we've got all the preconditions that those babies had as well, haven't we?
Well, the I can't remember which nurse it was in the Thirlwall inquiry, but one of her witness statements when they were talking about a rash on a baby in room 1, and it was just so telling that one of the nurses said, like, my feeling about the rashes on the babies was due to the sewage leak in the ceiling. And it's just like, they know, the nurses know, they know what it is.
They do know. That's why I've got to say, I don't want to, I'm being careful about the level I'm coming in at this, because I don't want to attack something that is working in the right direction. But there were elements in the early part of the ITV documentary in which Karen Rees says, we're all trying to work out what it was. And I think there's a lot of there's an element of trying to protect the past about what was going on in that hospital there, but she is in a difficult position, and and I'm glad she's come forward, because she did a 180, then she's done a 180 back now.
She's done a 360.
She's done a 360, yeah. So
720.
Well, she was very, very supportive, then said under guidance of her legal counsel, it's best to kind of go with the program, as it were. Now she said, I'll always regret that now. But she's trying her best to, but she's also cognizant of the fact that managers have been arrested. So we've got to allow for that as well, I guess, about what she says about what the hospital was like, isn't it? It's not over for the other people that work there.
About the management being arrested, and the fact that Paul Hughes has said there's no time limit on this investigation. That's unusual, because when I was involved with something, the police gave a time limit. I think it was 3 months in my case, and they said it'll be done by this time. So I don't quite understand how they're not giving a time limit. Like,
because the budget's endless, because what they don't want is to unravel all the 20 million quid they've pissed up the wall already, and they're gonna keep it going until forever if they can. It's not going to work for them, but it's almost like this will never end, in order so that people can't see what we fucked up. So the way we stop it's totally without it can't work as a strategy. But it's the idea we just going to make it last forever then.
Right. So when's the Thirlwall report finally due? Is it January 26th?
Yeah, early spring or early 26. Yeah.
Here's a hypothetical. What if nothing so far has moved with the CCRC? The case is still with the CCRC by then. They're going to delay that outcome for the Thirlwall.
They have to.
I reckon she's written two or three different outcomes, two or three different reports.
Yeah. Yeah, funnily enough, this came up in discussion, but again, before you came in, because I was saying no, but I'm really glad that you brought it up again, because it's the idea of they're in a kind of hostage to fortune now, in the sense that this is ongoing. How can they report? How can they report before this is resolved? They can't, because they'll have put their stick in the mud, basically, to say, going forward, this is how you deal with a serial killer on the ward. Here's all our advice.
Yeah.
Knowing that it's just probably in the offing to all be turned around.
Lady Justice Thirlwall must have written 2 reports.
Two reports, yeah. Here's one I made earlier.
Yeah.
That's what it is. I think you've really nailed it there. They'll have, yeah, if it goes this way, here's your report. If it goes that way, oh, here's the report. It could well be that. Oh, hold on a minute. There's somebody called Mervyn in the chat. Oh no, I've got to get rid of that person, haven't I? Because that's not you, Mervyn, is it?
It might. Well, what did they say?
Well, because you're saying, how can we come on? There's no StreamYard link.
Yeah, that was me ages ago.
Oh, that's you ages ago. Sorry, I'm a bit behind in the chat then. So I thought that was somebody. You remember the other, when somebody had been impersonating people?
No one's going to bother impersonating me. Trust me.
They will. I'm sure they will.
They'll only diminish their reputation.
You're beyond impersonation. I really miss old as in, not as in old, but Merlin Falcon. Yeah, he was fantastic. It was wonderful on the.
I'm sorry. What he thought of the documentary.
I know. I hope he got to see it, and I hope he's still kind of like keeping tabs on this, because he's done some amazing work. Why didn't the consultant speak up about taking on level 3? Is it that bad at the NHS that blame is always covered up internally? Yes, I think it probably is. Yeah. Surely honesty would be better. Did the consultants want to simply, I think that must go on, simply, be free of criticism? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they just didn't, but this is the fudge, like with Thirlwall. This is Dr. I was going to say it, I nearly said it then. This is Alison Timmis's email. They let the management know that it was all falling apart. Well, one of them did. One of them had the guts to do that. And then in Thirlwall, that email gets reduced to, oh, you were slightly more busier than usual. That's how it was reduced in the discussion in Thirlwall.
Oh, there's been a story recently in I think it was a Telegraph where an as yet undisclosed email from Arian Powell also was warning of dangers to the management. They didn't actually show the whole email, and I don't know if it's online or anything, because they only just mentioned a couple of extracts in this email, and I'd have been interested to have seen it.
And so that is not a Thirlwall document, that email.
No.
That's something subsequent.
No, it's a new one that they got.
Sorry, yeah. Oh, Lucy Letby analysis. Sorry, I missed some of these. Anonymity orders can be retracted if it's deemed to be in the public interest, as far as I know. Thanks. Hi, Chris. Nice to see you there. Sorry, I'm a bit behind. Hi, Samantha, as well. Nice to see you. Lynn, I was trying to do a quick fast blast through these. I think eventually Lucy will be exonerated. I absolutely believe she will as well. Maybe she will have anonymity.
Bit late.
Well, it's a bit, yeah. Carl Sinclair has stopped posting Lucy Letby stuff of late. Crime scene to courtroom. Yeah, crime scene. Oh, yeah, our mate. He's.
Well, look. To be fair, when I looked at I went on his channel because he was doing some postings of the judges, the transcripts of the judges summing up, and to be fair to crime scene to courtroom, the number of views that he was getting on the Letby stuff were about 5% or less than what he was getting from other things. And obviously, if it's his job to be a YouTuber, he's got to follow the views. If they're not, yeah. So it got other stuff was getting 100,000 views. They were getting like 5,000. That's the way it is.
it sounds to me in that sense, from the way you describe it, that he's come to the end of the road with it actually, and he's probably moved on to other things, and it's and maybe, well, maybe he's even had a change of heart, but it would be a disastrous thing or he probably couldn't countenance kind of to his fans, as it were, whatever, followers, whatever you want to call it. He's not going to kind of come out with that, so he's just going to kind of let it go, I think. I think a lot of people,
mind you, like if he's bought all these transcripts, you'd think he'd post them somewhere. Well, he must still have some in a drawer that he's bought for a couple of grand. Considering he's living in a 1-bedroom flat in Croydon. Sorry.
I've always doubted this guy at YouTube. I mean, he's making some money from YouTube, whatever, but is he really going to spend thousands and thousands? Yeah. And somebody else made this point. I can't remember who it was. I'm sorry. I don't think it was you, Mervyn. Somebody made the point. Has he... who was it? Anyway, whoever it was, he's meant to have been at the trial for like 10 months solid. How's he done that? How's that been possible?
I think that was Duckingstall who called him out. Yeah. Where he said he attended, but I think he went to it like one time once.
Really? Yeah. Oh dear. No, I mean, I think crime scene to courtrooms. He's back in the Essex boys world or whatever he is. Anyway,
but like,
off licenses, I think there's still a case for some of the orders to be reviewed, especially the doctors. Oh, that's the anonymity orders. I hope Lucy's doing okay. Yeah, we all do, but today I read somewhere that she'd been beaten quite badly. I never heard about that.
No, I think we'd have heard about it.
I wonder about that third arrest. I hope not. I hope that's not the case. They can't put everything in. I might just zoom through. I'm sorry if I haven't read everybody's comments. I might zoom through a few. The ITV documentary is very good. Hi, Michael. It's a shame it wasn't made a month later and included the coroner report and how that ties up with the panel's evidence.
Do you mean a month earlier?
Oh, the coroner, the lady. Yeah. The lady who said, her name.
My friend.
You did a video about it.
Stephanie Davies.
Stephanie Davies, yeah. No, that's
she wrote. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's Dr. Oh, so 36 trillion cells has read Dr. McConville's book. Some male journalists have a few questions to answer. They do. I think some of them will begin to pivot soon, gradually, incrementally towards the news story that they want, which is about an innocent nurse. A lot of them will begin to turn, I think. Tracy says, the documentary has opened people's minds about what happened, but I've seen a greater number of people who are convinced of her guilt commenting, especially on Jabe's channel.
Well, do you think when you say they're commenting, are they commenting saying, I've changed my mind? Do you think maybe that's what Tracy means?
I think possibly. I've seen some of the comments on Jabe's channel, and there seems to be like little rashes of little kind of spurts of these people. I can't remember all the names, but I recognise the names. Same ones keep coming up, and it's almost like but they feel very bereft now, and they've lost a lot of their energy. It's almost they're plaintive, and they feel that they're low energy now. They're not. I think they're going out. They're like they're zombies, really, in a way.
I mean, I've got one troll, and I quite like him because at least he's knowledgeable about the case and he's quite funny. But I've got credit where credit's due. When he summed up the documentary in his terms to me about the ambulance chaser lawyer doing this and that, and so 2 engineers. It was quite funny. So yeah, I appreciate it.
Well, to be honest, people like that, I think they're in it. I've always thought they don't care about it. It's entertainment for them, and they just some shtick, and they just want to have a thing on the internet with people.
Like some people take trolls like really to heart and think, but a lot of the time they're just putting up a counter argument to things because they like debating. You know, it's not because they actually believe someone to be guilty. They just like to argue and things like that. And you know, if they get to you. And I remember like Operation Merlin Falcon would get quite annoyed with the trials, you know, and they would definitely feed off of him because he would take it so personally.
That's true. That they want energy basically.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Attention is energy, and they want that. That's their food. So I've always thought a lot of them. I don't think they're sincere. I don't think they care what's really happened. You know, I don't think they're sincere about it. I don't think they're being driven by the fear of a serial killer being let out to kill other people.
And do you remember, like, we tried to invite one onto the live stream, and he kept saying, "Oh, he was having technical difficulties getting on or something." And
was that on here some time ago? Wasn't
so,
it? Yeah, it was. That's right. I did. It was.
Came on. It's like, yeah, whatever.
Came on. Yeah, you're right. I remember that now because I kept saying, "Well, come on, we'll talk. We'll talk about."
He never came on, did he?
Hi, Georgina. No, he never did. I saw Mervyn's loose women comment. Took no prisoners. Tinfoil's a new black. Hi, Tinfoil's a new black. It certainly is. I love me tinfoil.
I like that name. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Hi, Mark and everyone. The tide's beginning to turn. I absolutely agree. Yeah, tide's turned. The balance has tipped. All that good stuff. Rudy Dubb says, yes, some people will have a lot of explaining to do. It isn't Lucy. Yeah, absolutely. No. So I'm the guy that used to work with Judith. When I was employed through Globecast as a shoot edit camera operator. I worked there for about a year. Oh, right. Fantastic. Well, fantastic. I mean, you know, interesting.
About her book, Lucy Letby Unmasked, like loads of people, I've seen comments, and someone, like one of the comments was like, from one of the guilters, you know, read this book and you will know she's guilty. And I've read the book, and I honestly didn't think it was all guilt. I actually thought it was neutral / not guilty. So people are reading this, like, if people have got a mindset, when they look at something and they've already got this mindset, I think they just, the stuff that they want, like they like, jumps out at them, and then their mind disregards other things.
Absolutely, it's a confirmation bias. They're seeing it through a certain lens, and
I see it through a certain lens. Yeah,
absolutely. I remember when I used to be on Twitter that Peter Hitchens said that he thought that book was not like over obtrusively saying she's definitely guilty, but I've not read it, but she's a kind of, I'm not sure. Will you watch the Judith, the new, I think it's a panorama thing? Will you watch it?
Yeah, I'm on holiday next week, but I'll try and catch it. I might have to use a VPN or something.
Yeah, you've got to watch it now because the old thing in it. Your VPN comes in handy now. Anyway, enough about that before we get in trouble. So Mark, because there's this rule with this thing that you mustn't cause insignificant psychological harm online. I think we're past that stage.
Don't play computer games with me online then.
We're past that. Mark Reynolds says the new bit in documentary me was a comparison of SHS status in America. That was very powerful. Yeah, I thought that was, as someone that, like all of us in here, I thought that was the most powerful piece of it, because we're not the target audience for that documentary per se, but stuff about the insulin was really, really good.
Yeah, I mean, there was obviously lots of new info for people who didn't know as much as probably followers to this channel, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there definitely was. And so hi Vivian, hi Georgina, if I didn't say that's, hi Yelda. Moritz's book has been shortlisted for the Gold Dagger Award for Book of the Year and Best New Writer. So, everyone must have awards. It's like Evans is going to get. He should have a statue for like the best expert witness.
Sorry, I'm not. Is that a good award, or is it like a
raspberry thing?
Yeah, or is it one of those? I'm not sure.
Well, no, the gold dagger is a sort of award like for crime writers, true crime and fiction.
Right.
Crime,
okay.
So it's top notch stuff. So you could make up a kind of a satire thing about Breary and JR getting what awards would they get? I don't know. Something or other. Best pub band. It's just no, I can't say this. Things coming through my head which I must not say.
Oh, I wrote a comedy.
Richard's there, Richard Horrocks. Sorry, Mervyn. I'll just say hi, Richard. Hope you're doing well there. Great to hear from you, Mark. It's difficult to get in contact with you. Yeah, sorry, I've ghosted myself somehow. I keep thinking I've got to get off the internet, but I thought about the live tonight because it was an instinctive thing to do because of this. Weirdly, because of the loose women thing was the tipping point for me, because I think things are really, really moving along a line that it's going to really pull the public in a big way. That is, I think, and I think they'll revisit it as well once they've started talking about it. They'll come back to it. Yeah,
and they'll probably do some more research and realize, because the more. With this case, the more you know, the more in the innocent camp you go. So
yes, precisely.
It's only going to go in one direction.
Absolutely, that once you're on this track, you don't turn back, and you think, well, the further you go down the track, you don't look back at Evans, and you look back at him, and he's looking worse and worse and worse the further you go down. So.
They've been red-pilled.
Exactly. They've been red-pilled. Nice to see you, Richard. Hope you're doing well. And now Carl's comment. Carl said he worked with Judith Moritz. I actually tried to contact Judith about the stats. She didn't come back to me. I don't think she cared. Selling the book took precedent. Yeah, and getting the award apparently, Carl. If you've got a Silver Dagger award or Gold Dagger in the offing, then. Anybody else want to come on? I'll just put the link in again. Hi, Liz. Liz is saying, that's really interesting, Carl. Oh, yeah, about Judith Moritz. Thanks, Liz. Not boring, Mark. Great conversation. Oh, great. I'm glad it's not boring. Liz says, I found it a little strange how ecstatic she looked when she ran to the camera, exclaiming she's guilty. Yeah, that was weird.
Judith Moritz's first Panorama documentary, I hated it. There was so much wrong with it. This was the one where she had basically claimed to have found another insulin poisoning, and the baby turned out to have hyperinsulinism.
That's right.
But Letby wouldn't have known that, and so it was like, what are the chances that you would poison someone with something that the baby naturally has an issue? It was so stupid. And she lied in the documentary. Judith Moritz said when the guilty verdict was read out, there was no reaction from Lucy. It wasn't true. Lucy Letby turned to the jury and said, or judge, I can't remember which, and said something like, "You've made a mistake, I'm innocent."
Yes. They've constructed a fictional character in their heads, and that's where she's running. She's dealing with a fictional serial killer in her head, and you mustn't have that kind of stuff intruding. It's like, that thing when she ran that she's guilty, that was just weird. Absolutely, Liz. Absolutely weird behaviour and a major red flag. Hi, Georgina. Between 23 and 24, the NHS paid out 3 billion in medical negligence claims, and 41% of those were for inadequate. Bloody hell! I didn't know these figures. This is amazing. 40% of those were inadequate maternity care. Bloody hell! So if that's what they're paying out, what is that the tip of an iceberg of that may come in the future? And that's always been the thought I've had about it.
I don't know. The NHS piss so much money up the wall. That's probably nothing to them.
Yeah, well, 3 billion is a lot. And hi, Richard. Lovely to see you there. Richard's here. Up in Liverpool. How are you doing?
Yeah, good. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, thanks. Lovely to see you. You've been keeping well?
Yeah, very well, thanks. Yeah, like I say, I was worried about you. I haven't seen you for a while.
I know. I kind of came off Facebook and came off Twitter, and then I thought I've been following stuff that comes through YouTube. Eventually, there's a bit of a lag sometimes, but everything gets to here. Eventually, somebody makes a video about it. But what's your take about the ITV documentary, Richard, and I don't know if you've seen the Loose Women sort of discussion as well.
Yeah, well, starting with the Loose Women, I mean, the documentary sort of formulated their views this time around, because if you remember, was it a year ago or so, that they were very reticent, and they just wouldn't discuss it, and we're talking about the families, obviously, and stuff. This time round, was it Mariella Frostrup that was on the panel?
Yeah, she was really, really at the forefront of it, the discussion. Yeah. She was, she was really praising of the documentary, and recommended that everybody see it. And basically, all of them on the panel now think that she should at least have a retrial. So it's had a massive impact already. So it has, hasn't it? And in a sense, that's all we need. The mass of people or the push from the public to be is to get the retrial, because everything will flow from that. Because there's no way. I don't think there'll be a retrial, but even if there was, it's a done deal. But that's the point we've got to get to, isn't it? Really?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the power of that documentary. And if you look at all the comments online, I know they had a poll, and there was 50-50 whether she should get a retrial. But if you look on the social media and the polls, it's the comments. It's people are really asking questions now.
They absolutely are. I thought 50-50 on the face of it. You can think, oh, that's not so great. But I think considering where we've come from, it's fantastic, actually, 50-50. That it's like, I know it's a very particular sample, as Mervyn was saying earlier. You've got to think about the audience, but and exactly that particular audience who would have been quite probably emotionally involved in the idea of being pushed along with a mainstream media narrative. They've turned it around and said, well, half of us think we've got doubts about it now.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I say, the comments on all the YouTube videos and their official line saying, "Oh, there's something off about this." I'd say it's about 90%. Let's get this back to. Let's have another look at this, basically. So
90, yeah. It's been on the. I don't think it was a couple of months ago. Somebody was saying, looking at the upvotes, the upticks of votes on some of these comments on mainstream media articles, and it's like 1700 or whatever. It's like it's really gained traction, isn't it, in terms of a wide view about it now. And like Mervyn was saying earlier, weren't you, Mervyn, about a lot of people saying, well, there's a lot of comments on YouTube now saying, I always thought there was something a bit funny about this, or I always thought she was innocent, really, So.
But you might even find more expertise coming towards it, because if you get in more people on board interested in it, they might have something else to bring to the table.
Yes, that's true. That's absolutely true. It's the the all kinds of different specialisms, but also and one of the drivers of that, or one of the main aspects of the discussion on loose women, they were very impacted by the fact of these experts, and it's been made clear to them that there's a group of the like the cream of the neonatology world behind this. It's not nothing wrong with YouTubers. It's not just YouTubers talking about it or whatever, They were really affected by, aren't they? They're saying, look at all these people saying it.
Yeah, I think they said that explicitly. Actually, they said there's just too many, top-level, world-class experts raising concerns about this. We could, basically, we can't ignore this anymore. It needs to be sorted out. And I don't know. I put a comment down there as well. I don't know if you know that, or if you've discussed it before I joined the chat, that Peter Hitchens has come out with its most explicitly sort of clear, saying basically, she's most probably innocent. He's never really used the word innocent before. So
no,
after the
his bets in a way,
yeah, but now he has. He said basically, that she's most probably innocent. This needs to go back to the Court of Appeal ASAP. Let's get this done. So.
That's absolutely right. It's what's happened is that since the Shuley panel I think people have got a bit more courage to say there aren't any crimes. So what necessarily follows from no crimes is that no one's guilty of the non-existent crimes. Obviously, it has to.
How do you know that Lucy Letby is innocent? Well, because the panel said there's no evidence of murder. If there's no murder, there's no murderer. So that's how you know she's innocent, because there's no crime.
Precisely. I understand why people are doing it, but it's all like covering all the bases. But it's the idea of this has got in a weird way. This has got nothing to do with Lucy Letby and her personality and what she did with Facebook. All those things are incidental and irrelevant and misdirections, aren't they? If there are no crimes, all those things they all disappear into smoke,
Well, something that's always worried me about this case is Lucy as a figure has been a bit like Ned Flanders, so innocent, Miss Perfect, and yet this can happen to her. And what really worries me is, what if they did search her house and they found she did have some sort of vice, I don't know, gambling addiction, or she was taken, she had some sort of vice. Would there ever be any chance of her getting out? And not just that, what does this say about chances for anyone else's injustice being overturned? If we're finding it so difficult, if it's taking so long for someone with such a flawless, her text messages could be read by a child. There's no, they're so innocent. It just worries me about what would happen to you or I.
Yes, it does. I mean, she's a conspicuously innocent and straightforward and honest person to such a degree, but in a way, that's why they had to turn it into, this is the model person with a monster underneath idea. That's the line that they've always traded on, really. So, because they had nothing else. But had they had something else, yes, you're right. They would have. That's why they're in the gutters. That's why they're in the garden.
And like David Davis was saying, like in an interview recently with LBC. Like someone asked him the question, would you be speaking out if she wasn't innocent? And he was like, "Oh, of course I wouldn't. If she had harmed one baby, then of course I wouldn't." And I'm sort of thinking, well, hang on, that's not what she went. Even though she didn't, I'm sort of thinking, well, she went down for 50, she got 15 life sentences for. That's what she's down for murder. She's not down. Why does it matter whether or not she's completely innocent?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, okay, she is. She happens to be completely innocent, but then there are other people who, especially, there are other people potentially in jail who have got bad upbringings and things like that, and have had trouble with the law, and are perhaps in for things that they haven't done, and they haven't got a clean history.
Yes, indeed, yeah. What do you think about that, Richard? I mean, in terms of the presentation of what they've kind of they've made a Lucy Letby in the mainstream media, haven't they? And then they've created this kind of figure who's the face of innocence, but this kind of the demon beneath it. That's what they've constructed, isn't it?
Yeah, it's actually I've been arguing with someone online about something like that, and it was when she was arrested. They said, if it was me, I'd be kicking and screaming and yelling my innocence. And I said to them, well, if you were filmed doing that, then the media would say that you're out of control and a lunatic, and the police would the police would be a hell of a lot heavy-handed. They'd be throwing you to the floor and dragging you off, and so it's the optics of like what she looks like and how she reacted when she was arrested, when she was in the dock or whatever they call it, on the stand, as they say in America. But
yes,
that doesn't really mean a lot, because everyone will react differently to that. It's I mean, to me, when that horrible video when they knocked on her door and took her outside,
I can't watch that. I find that painful to watch. I can't watch it anymore. I flick through it.
It's horrible. Yeah, it's horrible, because I think she looked absolutely shell-shocked, and people saying like, oh, she wasn't screaming, she wasn't yelling, I'm innocent, in the middle of the street. It's like, if you were going crazy, then people would say, oh, look, she's a psychopath, she's mental. But she was obviously well, I could see she was absolutely, her face was white as a ghost, completely dropped and drooped. It was absolute shock. I could say, it's probably, she's not an extrovert character, I don't think, so she's not going to be doing that. So
that's absolutely right. And the context of that, and that is the 2020 arrest, isn't it, with the charge, rather than the 2018? Is that the 2018?
Is it the first arrest that was actually filmed? The one that was filmed on knocking on the door.
So that one there that they keep trotting out is that the 2018 arrest then?
I think so. Yeah.
I never know.
I'm not sure what the date of the arrest is.
Well, it's not the arrest. It's not the third arrest, because it's at her home, the one where they arrested her.
And she had to move, didn't she, on bail?
Yeah, the final time was at her parents' house. So this was definitely at her house.
Well, in that case, that's 2018. So she's still working. Well, if that's the first arrest, she's still working for the NHS Trust in that clerical role, isn't she?
Yeah.
So as far as she's concerned, she's an employee of the NHS, and the police have come round and early in the morning to take her in handcuffs to a car. You'd be stunned, wouldn't you? You'd be stunned.
Oh yeah. Well, she was. I think that's her personality. She's not someone to kick off and scream and start trying to kick and punch police officers and that sort of thing. She's You know, she was just like absolutely shell shocked. I could see it. You know, anyone can see it in her face.
No, as far as I'm concerned, she acted the same way I would.
Yeah,
and me.
Except when it came to the interviews, I wouldn't have been anywhere near as helpful as she was.
No. Well, that's another thing. She thought she was literally, because they use this phrase, don't they? Someone is helping the police with their inquiries. She thought she was helping the police to get to the truth, and she didn't know they were just waiting for something to nail her with, basically. So,
and she knows she's innocent, so she doesn't have to gild the lily or over egg the pudding. Doesn't have to. Why would she do that? And why would she become this kind of screaming Harridan character, caricature? And
that's another laughable aspect of the hummingbird video, as I say. What we found amazing was that she was so talkative. She answered every question. You know, she all that sort of stuff.
Yes,
of course she did, because she thought she was helping you. She thought she was helping you get to the truth. Oh, bloody idiots!
Absolutely, because they're used to dealing with criminals who are mostly, often, not always, often guilty. You're going to say no comment, no comment, no comment. They've got somebody there who's been brought up, who's never had any issues with the police, never dealt with the police.
Yeah, this is the thing. The police, they must know, because that they must have known that when they have an innocent person there, and when they've got to get, they know they're experienced. They've got experience with this. Like, I've been in the same situation, and a couple of, well, not obviously the same thing, but I mean, a couple of police officers said, like, "What are you doing here?" You know, like that kind of thing. They knew they had the wrong person.
Right. Yeah. Yes, they should do, and
they must have known.
But so we're going back to 2018 now. So that's like summer, isn't it? It's July or something like that, isn't it? Like mid-year 2018, that first arrest, isn't it? But
yeah,
that police, they've sunk a year's worth of investigation into that already. So that's where they're up to. So when they make that arrest, they're not coming in cold. They've already been told by Evans that there's been deliberate harm, and they've created the chart. This is what I was saying as a comment on Chris's Lucy Letby analysis video the other day, is that not only is that chart a very central standing aspect of the trial, but it's the means by which they could justify the arrest and then the charge before you even get to a trial. They've got that chart which has all the X's down it. They've got Evans saying this is all deliberate harm.
I vaguely remember at the time the news was that they had. I think that's how I got interested in the case, because I thought that was the basis of the arrest, when they said a nurse has been arrested in connection with being on duty for a large number of deaths, and I thought that at the time that was the basis of it.
Well, if it's not the basis of it, on what basis are they arresting her? It can only be that. And as Evans says in his early interviews, he says, I told them, whether this is true or not, I told them, look at all your rotors and see who was on duty. And all that ends up being is a replication of the chart that Breary was doing with some other bells and whistles on it. And either way, they get a line of X's. Without that, they can't arrest anybody. They've got to suspect everybody, then, haven't they? Everyone.
The triple cherry picking that went on.
Yeah, it's just that they couldn't have arrested her without that chart, or without a version of that chart. Because on what basis? I mean, or they've got to consider every death is a separate murderer. There's a potential separate murderer for every death. And this is why the lies that have been told about statistics probability has got nothing to do with the prosecution's case is just so egregious, because it's the whole engine of why she's even focused on. And she's been focused on 2 years before as well. They're just building on it.
David Davis again brought up the fact that, you know, if these murders were tried on an individual basis, there was no way she could have been found guilty. It wouldn't have even got to trial if they were done on an individual basis. And when I was at that meeting in that Hereford meeting arranged by 19 Nurses, one of the speakers talked about how this precedent, this legal precedent came in, case law that they used, and it originated from the Bride in the Bath case. But when I actually looked up the Bride in the Bath case, they actually, although they used the series of murders as they used the series of murders for a conviction, they in that case they could actually only convict on one murder, not for all of them. So I don't understand where this legal precedence comes from. And the thing also about British law that I've noticed is they seem to like to invoke case law. In other words, if something's happened before, you know, if someone's been sent to prison before for something, you can use that as a basis in future. And so it's almost like, oh, because we've made a mistake before, you know, because someone's made a mistake before, we can do it again.
Yes, it could be compounded. I thought that often you're not meant to show evidence of quote unquote bad character to a new jury, are you? You're not supposed to do that.
Yeah.
Although Goss kind of in the second trial, he says, well, you can infer, you can make inferences. No, but in the first trial he does that. He says, well, if you think she's guilty of that, you can make inferences about child B, D, F. You can do it. You can do all that.
Mm.
That was basically. Sorry,
that
Richard.
was basically. Well, that was basically the whole premise of the retrial. Was just like, okay, so you know, Lucy Letby is, you know, quote unquote a murderer. You know, she probably, you know, you don't really need any evidence. She did. You know, she probably did this one. So. Yeah, they basically gave instructions to the jury to go away for 3.5 hours and come back with a guilty verdict.
Which begs the question, does it not? Why did they choose Baby K? Why did they have to? What did it mean for them out of all those other cases where they couldn't reach a verdict? Why did they choose that one? Why did they do that?
Well, you saw. Sorry.
No, I mean, I don't have much to say apart from that. Yeah, they could have lined up the whole lot of them and just used the same argument, you know. You know.
What I was going to say is I covered a couple of these cases where they didn't reach a verdict on.
Yes, you did.
Case 13 and case, I think it was 18, and they were just so not weak. They're non-existent.
They're the kind of ones where they said something must have happened or something. You know?
Yeah, they didn't even give a method of attack. They just said she must have done something.
Yeah. What do you need? That's all you need to say. But I think the other aspect of it is that it's Jayaram, because Jayaram is the key player here. He piques their interest. You can't have him as the engine of it losing that altogether, because originally it was a murder charge. So you're going to get everything else, but you're not even going to get an attempted murder on the case that was essentially the driver for the whole thing. I wonder if that was in their thinking. I don't know. Yeah,
I wonder. I don't know how much. I mean, I don't know how it works. Whether Jayaram could have said, "Look, you know, it's my word against hers. You know, they're going to make me look." You know, they've sort of basically voted against me, as it were. the jury. You know, they've not been convinced by my evidence. I need to
Yeah.
I need to have a second go and just like say, you know, I say I saw her doing something malicious, so that should be good enough. And
Well, listen, something that I read in Judith Moritz's fantastic book so, um, was about the trial with when J.R.M. was speaking about why didn't you know, and he was being asked why didn't you speak up earlier about why didn't you report it to the police earlier? This is in the first trial, and when he was giving an answer, one of the mothers stormed out the courtroom because she was so unhappy with his answer.
Oh God. Yeah. There has to be that impact of that as well. And just taking it back a little minute to why that as a retrial. It's a second bite of the cherry, as it were, to get it over the line. But as with all this kind of this hubris, it doesn't work. It works against them, because what they had to do is change the timings, and then you get that appeal judge saying, really throwing some serious shade over J.R.M., saying, well, you might think that his evidence is doubtful, doesn't it? So it's not really helped him in the long run. That it's actually made him look a lot shadier, that retrial, even though it works, you know.
The whole thing about any of the doctors saying, "Oh, I should have been braver," I should have spoken up more. It's actually their legal obligation. If they really truly believe that patients under their care were being harmed by anybody on that ward, they do not need the permission of the managers or anybody else. It's legally, they're under their care legally, and they need to go straight to the police or to the overview panel, which has a police presence.
Yes.
All this sort of like, oh, I should have been braver, and I really, it plays on my mind, and I keep awake at night. It's nonsense. That's absolute. If somebody was harming patients, it's negligence on their part. They are responsible for those babies on their ward.
Yes.
So either way, they should be held to account, but they've somehow come out of this like heroes, being praised as heroes. It's just it's perverse. It's bizarre.
It's a kind of mixture, isn't it? Because they're heroes that have been reported for perjury. They're heroes that people have reported them to the GMC. You've got Dr. Dimitrov. You've got who's the minister? What's his name?
Was Streeting?
No, the main guy that's been behind this. I've forgotten his name for a second.
David Davis.
David Davis. He's reported J.R.M. to the police.
Yeah.
The police haven't come back to him really, or we've not heard anything about that. But
that's the Cheshire police that he's reported to. So God knows.
Well, exactly. But in a sense, they're both heroes, but they're also there's an undertow working at the same time, and it's showing them to be really fucked up people, really dark people at the same time, and that people are realizing it. So, and the hero thing is just this kind of very, very thing that just shatter. It will just shatter, and it will eventually totally.
Yeah. I just don't understand how nobody's really sort of pushed the fact that because their mantra has always been, we spoke to the management and we kept pushing the management, and the management wouldn't do anything. The management should not. It doesn't matter. It's their responsibility as the clinicians. The patients are under their care. They should have gone. They should have gone to the police. The management are there to oversee, logistical things and the budgets and all that sort of stuff.
And that's absolutely true. But they did do the RCPCH. They got Dr. Jane Horden in. They got the other.
That's the management. Yeah, the management did. Yeah, I'm talking about J.R.M. and Brewery.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah.
it's completely up to them. It's on their shoulders to go to the police or the overview panel if they had the first inkling that any baby was being harmed by anybody on the board, anyone at all, parents, staff, whatever. And you don't go to the management to have a whinge and a whine. It's not to do with them. It's to do with the consultants are responsible, and they need that. Well, it's an absolute legal obligation for them to go to the police if they're patients. They are there.
It absolutely is. But when it comes to the point that the management does involve the police, the police's initial responses, there's nothing to see here. There's nothing we can act on. There's no.
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean. I mean, it's just the fact that it just indicates that they didn't really truly believe, in my mind,
No, that's what I was
that there was any
yeah.
crime at all.
The reason they didn't is because they knew she weren't harming them.
Yeah,
that's the curious thing. Yeah,
that's what I mean.
Sorry, carry on, Richard.
No, that's what I mean. I maybe misunderstood, but it's just that is what would happen in normal unit if you really truly believed that they couldn't have, because they must have known their obligations. And
yes, absolutely. Yeah, they should have done. I mean, Jairam said I didn't know what to do though, didn't he? He makes that kind of feeble kind of thing. I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to do this.
That's incompetence then in that case. So he should be struck off.
No, I totally understood what you meant. I think I was moving on to the idea that as and when the police were involved, so it's almost like, so if you've got the consultants saying, well, yes, they should have independently gone to the police if they thought it much. Well, Jairam's original story, his later story, about what happened with baby K, he should have reported that to the police then. He should have gone straight to that, shouldn't he?
Absolutely, yes, absolutely, yeah.
So no, I did understand, and then but when the management, after they've done all this research stuff, they do go to the police. They get knocked back, and then they need peaking, don't they? And then Jairam's there to peak them, you know.
Yeah,
they got to pique their interest. So it's almost as though, I suppose why I'm saying that is, had Breary gone to the police with a drawer of doom, presumably it would have gone nowhere, because even a year down the line after the drawer of doom has been talked about, it went nowhere until it was piqued by Jairam by saying, I witnessed this. That was are we thinking that was the tipping point that got the police, that got Hughes involved, essentially? I mean, you know, as an investigator.
Yeah, it's a mystery, that one. I mean, we definitely know that the police were saying, stepped in. I don't exactly know what he said or what he had. It was that point where it triggered the investigation, I think, wasn't it? Yeah. Whatever he had.
Well, it was at the meeting.
It was at the meeting.
It was at the meeting when he came out with this, with the statement about that the nurse was standing over the cart. That was when he came out with that.
Because then that's in. Okay, you've got the. This is really interesting because I've never thought about it this way, because they always talked about the insulin as a smoking gun, but the insulin didn't pique the police. Did they?
Yeah.
They didn't use that to pique the interest. They used that to kind of consolidate it later in 2018. But they didn't. It's almost as though you've got to get them on board, and then you've got to consolidate it with smoking gun. And you've got to create a smoking gun around it.
Yeah. Which is key, because, you know, if that's the thing that piqued the police's interest to go forward with this, and we've got the email now that shows Jairam was, well, it looks like, you know, obviously Sir David Davis has reported him for perjury.
Yes.
Because, you know, and the whole thing should be collapsed
but
already.
the timings of that email, it was 11 days before he went to the police and told them otherwise.
So in a way, really, when we were talking about perjury before and stuff like that, he's got to convince someone, if he ever faces that charge, that his memory was lost over a period of 11 days, then, wasn't it? Not over years.
Yeah,
it's over 11 days. He's lost his memory.
So maybe not so etched in his memory.
No, not it.
You know, and in his nightmares forever.
It was unemblazoned. That's interesting, because it's the idea of like his potential defenses to it is like, he's got an 11-day period to explain his amnesia, basically, about it.
Yeah, whereas he's on record and on film saying that everything on that day is in etched on his memory, and he has nightmares about it. Well, where is he going to go?
He's in the corner then, isn't he? Because he's both super aware of what happened, and he's kind of done a complete reversal of it in an 11-day period.
Yeah,
he shouldn't be able to get out of that.
Oh, surely can't.
He shouldn't be able to. The Cheshire Police aren't going to pursue perjury charges because it's not in their, not because it's not in the law's interest, because it's not in Cheshire Police's interest. No, but it's obvious that they can't say it. But it's like them shooting.
That was my worry when Sir David Savers said, I've lodged this complaint with Cheshire Police. I thought, oh well, that's going nowhere. That's going in.
13.
The special filing cabinet.
Yeah, the special filing. Yeah, we'll look at that. Yeah, after we've dealt with the extubations at Liverpool Women's Hospital, and that investigation is going to take the next 25 years to work out.
Yeah.
I think Cheshire Police are in a process of kicking the can down the road and just hoping this goes away, but they know it can't go away. So they're in this kind of. I think they know they're in trouble, but obviously they're not going to admit anything.
Yeah, yet. But this is the tactic.
If there's any
road. They're just going to delay. Sorry,
go ahead.
I think their tactic is they're just going to delay. A few more people will retire, go abroad, die of old age. That's going to be their tactic. Just keep delaying everything.
Are the Cheshire Police? Can I ask you both? Are they going to charge the 3 managers? I think we know who they are, or who they're likely to be. Are they going to charge them?
Well, I'll leave it to you with that. I don't know. I'll have to think about that one.
Yeah.
If it can delay things, they might do. If it can complicate and delay and frustrate things, they might do.
Would they risk charging them and getting knocked back by the CPS to say there's not enough here to charge them? I think the arrest is kind of a strategy to keep it open as a potential, but a charge is. I think,
don't the CPS decide whether or not?
Exactly. That's the point I'm making. So you can make an arrest, so to throw kind of a shadow over them, and you can keep that going for as long as you want. But as soon as you decide to charge, then if they get knocked back by the CPS, then it looks really bad on them, doesn't it? Because it's like, but I think it's all strategizing to keep it kind of, we're busy, we're doing stuff,
Well, I think it's also to scare them, and it's a threat to those 3. Just to keep them quiet, and because they've got. We already know, when with the Thirlwall inquiry, they lobbied Thirlwall to say, there's a good chance that Lucy Lipp is actually innocent. So halt this nonsense. From I think the same 3 that we know they are. So, and I think that's like another just firing a shot back, basically, from the police. against that sort of thing. But I think what the more sort of pertinent thing is the so-called full dossier of charges that they've handed to the DPS. That more charges against Lucy.
Yes.
That's, again, another sort of threat, another tactical play from them. That's probably more serious, but I don't know whether that's going to go anywhere.
Well, yeah, because I did some videos about that, and I had some thoughts about that. Is that why would they risk doing that, getting them knocked back? If they get knocked back by the CPS, then it kind of almost has a light shining back on their previous investigation, as it were, to say, look how desperate they are. They're trying to get something that even the CPS don't want to hear about now. Is it a bit of a risk that they're doing that? Would they need to be sure of? I'm not even sure. Is that Evans? Is that Evans's evidence?
I don't think we're actually ever going to get any information. I don't think the public are ever going to see this full file.
I think you're right. The full file. Yeah, I think you're right. I think they'll keep it as though it never happened. What they wanted to do was tell people they're doing it, and it's going to disappear into nothing.
Exactly.
I don't know how much. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of trolls on Twitter, and I do believe that maybe one or two might have connections to maybe the police or the doctors. You know, something like that. It seems that way. A couple of them are saying, "Just wait. There will be more charges. We know. I don't know if it's bluster or but I do think that it just seems that, you know, it could even be the people themselves, but, you know, they might be connected to those within the Hummingbird or the doctors, or but they're saying they seem to be very confident that there will be more charges laid soon. I don't know if there's anything in that, but it's kind of worrying, I guess. But
it's odd, isn't it? Because you've got. So they're not going to be murder charges. They're going to be attempted murder charges, probably.
I think probably the alleged dislodgements and all that sort of stuff. But they're in a world now. They're in a context in which the actual murder convictions have been completely undermined. So it feels so like such a weak flex and such a weak, desperate attempt to get some extra attempted murders as a charge when you've got all your murder charges under deep undermining contention with a world-class panel like that. So it can only go wrong for them. It should only go wrong for them. But I think they're desperate. I think it just feels like the lashing out of a dying creature. Really, it's desperation. It feels like. Yeah, I don't know what. I think the thing that most people and journalists and everyone that believes in free press is like, what would that mean for things we're doing now? Discussions, is it going to put a complete halt to the investigative journalism and people like us that are questioning it and digging? And I think that would be a tactical move if there were more charges laid, and then the courts say, right, everybody shut up, otherwise you're in contempt of court. That's a concern.
It is a concern, but weirdly, I think their strategy to do that is we're not in Kansas anymore. Things have moved on so far post New Yorker, post Shuley, ITV documentary, etc., etc., etc. We're not in the same country anymore with it. I just don't. I think they're behind the times, as it were. They think that this threatening can work, but the contending narrative is pushing pushing against that all the time. It's making it look desperate, and I just think, I don't think it will take much for the general public to see that the police, and you're seeing this in certain comments, they're just trying to, just trying to fuck this up more now because they fucked it up before. They're just trying to protect themselves.
I'm wondering if the police, you know, are they in their own little bubble of, you know, because they'll only socialise with other police officers outside of work and things, and will they in their minds have this notion of you know, will they be oblivious to everything that's going on in the Free Lucy camp? Perhaps are they in their own little bubble?
They could well be. Yeah. I mean, they kind of professionally they are. I mean, in the sense, I mean, socially they may be as well, but professionally they kind of have to be, because they're facing a world of, well, I don't know what the real ramifications to them will be, but it will be, what will it be? It will be like, you know, you put an innocent person in prison and there were no crimes. It's not a good look, you know. But
I think the opposite. I think they've got pseudonyms. I think they're all over social media. I think they're looking at everything we're doing.
Really,
really. Oh yeah.
Have you had any kind of because you're obviously on? I'm assuming you're still on Twitter, Richard, and stuff like that. Yeah. Facebook. Have you had any sort of direct feelings that you've been interacting with people that are not, and might be not more than common or garden trolls, that they might be working for some agency or other?
Yeah, I mean, I've got no proof. It's difficult to say, but it's like I said before. You know, like they say, trust me, I know there are more charges coming, etc. And it could be bluster, like I say, but a couple of things have proven true. You know, like I can't think of an example, but I do believe that a lot of the long-term trolls. I mean, you know, that Deb or whatever. You know, we know the
the names. Yeah, some of them.
Yeah. But they do have connections and skin in the game, and yeah. So I think there are pseudonyms on there that are you know, directly connected to the cops and to the doctors, and they're looking at everything that we're saying. So.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. Because we were talking about this earlier before you came on, Richard, that with Mervyn, that there's people about, you know, why are trolls into this? You know, what is it about them? What's driving them? Isn't it, Mervyn? You know. But if they're working for the powers that be in one way or another, then that's another level of agenda or a purpose, isn't it? That's a different level altogether than somebody who just wants to get a lot of people saying stuff in opposition to them or something, you know.
Yeah, I think they must have some sort of skin in the game. I can't see any other reason why they're still banging on, and you know, they've got a lot to lose, or they know someone, or they're close to someone who's got a hell of a lot to lose.
I don't know. I think they could just be some, you know, there's a lot of people who like taking photos of buses and trains, and we don't understand how they operate, you know. So they could just be.
I think it's a mixture.
A little bit.
Yeah,
you know.
There's some of those.
There's some of those, and I suppose I've wondered actually whether I've always wondered whether why hasn't there been any kind of direct police involvement with some of us, what we're saying, you know, in terms of, oh, you've gone too far there, but maybe they just don't want to draw attention to it. It's almost like, I think they think, but they when it's on the ITV and when it's on these other big channels, the legacy media stuff, they can't ignore that.
Yeah, you say that. I can't remember who the speaker. Oh, it was at the 19 Nurses meeting. It was a relative of is it Barry George?
Yeah, Barry George's sister. Yeah,
I think it was his sister
it was his
who
sister.
spoke at
Yeah,
the meeting, and she said that when she was questioning the verdict, she was deemed an enemy of the state.
Really,
Yeah.
gosh, yeah, because there's so much about that Jill Dando murder that's so opaque and dark. Well, nobody knows who's done it. And
That's a direct threat to her, you know. Yeah, that's.
I didn't. Yeah, that's awful. She did an amazing job supporting her brother there. He didn't get any compensation for like 8 years in prison, nothing at all, because they deemed the trial was fair, even though they found him innocent, which is obscene, isn't it? But it's found an innocent person guilty.
Laughable thing is, I think it was a Conservative government just gone that I thought it was a victory that they pushed up the upper boundary of not £1 million compensation, but £1.3 million of compensation.
Really?
Yeah, which is nothing. It doesn't matter if you've been in prison for a couple of years or 26 years or whatever. Like 1.3 is all you're going to get for that. That's the top end.
That's not going to cover Letby security.
Right. So
No.
Andrew Malkinson wouldn't get more than that. He wouldn't get. That would be the limit for Andrew Malkinson for 17 years. Then would it? Really?
Top end 1.3 million. That's it.
And I don't know what they're doing with this now, because I know that it was being contended, but the idea that they'd take that's out of that money, out of that sum you mentioned, Richard, that they'd take out bed and board for that, bed and board in prison, i.e.,
Yeah, that's is it Michael O'Brien, the
Birmingham 6,
the Cardiff 3?
Oh, so the Cardiff 3
no,
one, yeah.
Cardiff 3, yeah. So he's actively campaigning against that law. I think it still is law because he's campaigning against that. So I think it is the fact that as if you've been on holiday in a B&B or something. They'll take out your bed and breakfast.
It's obscene. It's horrific, isn't it? Did you meet him, Mervyn, at the 19 Nurses thing?
Who? Sorry, which one?
Mr. O'Brien, the guy from Wales.
I heard him speaking. I don't think I spoke to him. I wasn't very sociable at the meeting because I had a terrible headache from driving and stuff. So I didn't really. I even had to leave early because I was falling asleep and stuff. But
did you go to it, Richard? Were you there? I don't know if you.
Yeah, I was there.
Oh, you were there as well. So you saw everyone, and
did
you meet Chris and everything, and other people?
Yeah, I met Chris there as well. And I mean, I can't obviously say much about, but I mean, the first person to speak was Paul, and Lucy's best mate, and that was the highlight for me. It was unbelievable, so emotional. It was just unbelievable what she was saying, and it just. She's obviously incredibly grateful for everybody doing what they're doing, and reiterating the fact that her friend Lucy is just the kindest, sweetest person you could ever meet.
I don't know if it's appropriate to talk about there was something that she mentioned in her speech, but it's probably not appropriate to talk about it. But
well, it wasn't recorded, was it? I don't know.
Yeah. So
could you say it in general terms, or do you think it's best not to?
Well, it was recorded by
one of the journalists did publish it, but
Anouk was there, and it was recorded, but I guess that she hasn't got permission to spread it. And,
yes.
So.
But in general terms, Dawn had faith in the justice system and didn't realise it was coming.
So can you say that again? She originally had faith.
She had faith in the justice system and didn't realise that this was going
right. Yeah, she's kind of believed that they'll wake up eventually and realise her friend that she knows intimately as a completely innocent person is impossible. It's a mistake. Kind of they'll work it out, kind of thing, you know. Which in a way, Lucy Letby was probably in that state of mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
thinking, I know I'm innocent. I've never had any issues with the police. It's impossible. When she's in the clerical role, she's not thinking, oh, I'm going to end up being arrested in a trial and being worldwide figure of hate for being the worst serial killer of children in the world, in Britain.
And you know what?
No comprehension of that idea at all.
People are always saying, why didn't they call any expert witnesses? And one of my theories is complacency. Like, because the prosecution didn't present any case, it was almost like, you've got nothing to answer. Why do you need to? You've got nothing to answer. They haven't presented anything. Why do you need a doctor, someone else coming in when what they're saying is such dribble?
Well, about that, so I think that, you know, the fact that she's there, the fact that the babies are dead, however it's happened, the babies have sadly passed away, they're dead, and she's there, and the system have brought this person in, and they put them in the dock, and you can see her. That's the main bit of work they need to do, because who else is it?
Yeah,
you know, it's like, well, who else have they got to blame? Because the police, this whole system has spent years and millions of pounds getting this person into a room, and that's done the majority of the heavy lifting for the jury, because there's no one else intention, you know. Sorry,
I think that was the I think that was the tactical mistake on the defence, because as you're saying, like, you know, they did actually argue no case to answer. There's nothing here, but of course Goss waved that away and said, let's crack on with it.
It couldn't work.
And,
though, could it, Richard?
At that point, they should have really got their act together and, you know, and got the medical experts on Lucy's side, because I think I agree, because it was just so ridiculous. What was said in court was absolutely ridiculous. And actually, Ben Myers did a great job cross-examining Dowie Evans. And if you've read the transcript, if you've heard the recordings of it, he was all over the place. It was ridiculous. It was a shit show. Yeah. And but it didn't seem to matter in the end.
No, I don't. I never understood the jury. I mean, like at the time, when I was just, I hadn't looked at anything online about the case or anything. My only point of reference back at the time, at the point of the trial, was the Daily Mail podcast. And when I was talking to my family about it, just before the verdict was coming up, I said, there's no evidence, they can't convict her. And I was surprised.
The reason I'm not surprised is because why are they all there then? You know, why are they there? Why has the state, all these operations of the state, got this person into the room? There's no other suspect. It's not as though it's somebody else other than Lucy Letby.
I've been trying to find this clip on, it was like Talk Radio, Talk TV, and it was circa it was like an MP had been arrested for something, and there was talk about whether or not he should have had the whip stripped from this MP. And I just remember, I just remember this one member of the public phoning in saying, yeah, of course, as soon as someone's arrested, they not only should they have the whip stripped from them, but they should be suspended, sacked or something. And then the host was saying, well, just for being arrested, and then the member of the public's view was, well, they don't arrest people for no reason. And I just thought, how naive are you? I couldn't believe it.
Can I just say, I think I've got it that from my own mind is that the burden then on the jury to find Lucy Letby innocent. The only way they can do that is that they have to independently, not with the benefit of everything we've seen in the interim, they've got to carry the burden and say there were no murders then. But if they believe they've been told there are murders.
Yeah, but the defence is saying that.
Yeah. Well, they are saying it, but how powerfully are they saying it without any competing expert medical evidence? It's almost as though, well, they've got eight prosecution expert witnesses against. They're listening to the quote unquote the voice of science, aren't they? That's what they're listening to. And Myers isn't producing any of that. He's not producing anything.
Lucy Letby analytics.
That's why the
no, go ahead.
Well, that's why the insulin cases are so key, because essentially, they were obviously fed, everybody, including the defence, and Lucy was fed the line that these babies had been poisoned, so there must be a murderer or someone trying to murder babies aboard. But it wasn't Lucy. So, but she's the only one in the dock. She's the only one. They didn't do it. So in the jury's mind, obviously, there is murder. There is a murderer. So it has to be her. Whereas, of course, we now know that the test results did not show poisoning at all. That's the key. We all know that's the foundation block of the entire thing. Pull that away.
Yeah, that was the unanimous verdict that came in first for the insulin poisoners.
And I thought about it a lot, and I did this. I had this concept of this train of, and other people use that analogy of the train. It's pulling the train.
Did New Yorker use that?
Yeah, they did. It's the engine that's pulling the train. But when I thought about it more and more, it's like it's relying on the coaches to move it as well. But and what are the coaches? It's all those other. She must have done something. She did something here. She did all the it's all the air embolus stuff. The air embolus stuff supports the weirdly and crazily supports the insulin cases, and the insulin cases pulls the other stuff along. Neither sections can exist on their own. Yeah, they're both feeding off each other at the same time.
Well, that's kind of what the prosecution was arguing. It's a constellation. It's like the whole train and the carriages moving together. That push. But obviously, it's the insulin cases that at the time they didn't have any argument against the babies were given insulin. Somebody gave it to them, but it wasn't the person sitting in the dock.
That's true. And then they're looking at the person in the dock, who they're, even if they're like 49% sure or 48, 50, 45% sure might have been involved in all the other stuff, and then think, well, obviously she's involved in that, and it pulls everything else into it, doesn't it? Everything else is in there then.
Yeah, that's the key.
But in actuality, what it turns out to be is weakness supporting weakness to create strength. And it's a complete misnomer and it's complete bollocks. But that's how they've managed this. That's how they've managed it.
Like they said on.
I mean, there is a wall of evidence, but it's made of sand.
Yeah,
with any logic. Let's say, to be poetic, the wind of logic will blow it all downs.
Well, totally, and that's what Shuley and panel have done, haven't they? They've done it. They've done it with the insulin. They've done it with all the air embolus stuff. So they've decimated it. They've decimated it, and it can only work that way. It would never work. Lucy Letby's never getting out on the basis of anything other than a methodology to say there were no crimes, is there? That's the only way it's going to work. And they have to do that through a higher level, higher echelon of actual experts. So as opposed to the motley crew that was in the trial.
Yeah, the only evidence, well, the so-called evidence, what they thought they had was evidence of crime, was the insulin cases, that somebody had given those babies insulin, and even, Lucy Letby said, no, that couldn't be done by accident. Somebody's done it, but it wasn't me. And, obviously now we know that the tests used to quote unquote prove were absolute garbage,
Those two insulin cases in the context of all the other cases, but just imagine if the insulin cases had been the only cases that there were, and then brought these two attempted murder cases. Well, it never would have come to a charge. It never would have reached a charge in isolation. So you've got this paradox of the engine driving everything that couldn't work on its own even. It couldn't even work as an independent engine. Paradoxically, it needs the super weak cases of the other stuff to even make it work.
Yeah. So, that, and they think that's a strength because they're going on about constellation of evidence. There's just so much of it. Well, that's because they're just throwing so much mud. They're hoping some of it will stick.
It's logical fallacy piled upon logical fallacy, and that's how they operate in that contesting system, is that they can just tell the story of it and just bamboozle the overwhelm the jury. That's what they did. They overwhelmed them with it.
Oh yeah.
I don't blame the jury. I don't blame them in terms of, because how would us three here, let's say we're on that jury, we haven't done any what we've done looked at what we've done in the last 2 years, sorry. So how would we address what came at us in that court? I don't know. How would we deal with it?
I mean, if you put the science aside, one thing I do blame the jury for is the method of application of this so-called insulin. That the story was just so absurd that Lucy, went into the store cupboard and spiked one of the bags, and then that bag happened to just go to the baby that she was accused of. Like I said on the Twitter, it's like, well, if she went to all that trouble, why didn't she spike more than one bag, a couple, and then a couple? Why would you go to all that trouble just to do one, and hope that somebody picks up that bag and puts it up on the same babies? Why not just do the whole lot? It's just absurd. It's just unbelievable. It's like in the is it Professor Yole? Is it?
In the documentary.
In Anouk's documentary. I mean, he's a very, very, very intelligent, clever man. He was just like bamboozled by it, wasn't he? It was just like,
yes,
it's just absurd, the whole story. And I don't understand how the jury swallowed that.
Well, that's true, and also they didn't prove. They had no conception of when it occurred. So once you lose the idea of when the preparation of the poison, as it were, is meant to have occurred, who's on duty goes out the window, surely, doesn't it? And that's something I've always thought should have been a way of undermining it. Well, when were these bags supposed to have been interfered with?
Yeah, but it's just
that.
It's just the basics. Like, why would you? Like, why would she? She worked there for 3 years already.
Oh yeah, it's all crazy stuff. We know all that. It's what you said, Mervyn, in a number of your videos about if you're going to attempt to murder an ultra vulnerable baby, you don't need 3 attempts to do it. You know, and you keep changing your modus operandi as well of murder. You know, it's all counter anything that's logical or normal. None of it makes sense. But,
yeah, and apparently she'd already had a very, allegedly already had a very quick and effective way of murder. Like with the air embolus. Just a syringe with air, bang. Why on earth would she then risk this very?
And Myers made
you know,
that point as well.
Did he?
Yeah.
Did he say that in the trial about the changing of the method of murder? Did he?
Yeah, he did. Yeah. That surprised me as well that he did.
That's what I mean. But I don't understand what the jury were thinking there.
And like the other day, Lucy Letby Analytics, he done a video about, because you were talking about you got 8 expert witnesses or medical experts on one side. Well, you've also got the consultants, haven't you? Who are
they're in the shadows, aren't they?
So they're giving evidence against her.
Yeah.
So I think that was probably more. But the medical expert witnesses, Lucy Letby Analytics was saying that actually they didn't all agree with Evans, but I put a comment saying, and I think I wound him up the wrong way with the comment, with if they didn't disagree with him, then Evans is fair enough to say that they do agree with him, if that makes sense. Like, why didn't any of them speak out to the judge and say, look, we've got this loony on the team who's come up with this ridiculous theory? None of them spoke out, did they?
No. The other experts on the prosecution side, no. Because they're on a team, and they're being paid by the prosecution. I think it sounds a bit facile and banal, but I think it's as basic as that. That they're on the same team.
What I was sort of saying is they're just, to me, they're just as culpable as Evans.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I mean, there's some that have got disciplines which are nothing to do, and they said nothing about air embolus, for example.
I know, but what I'm saying is, they should have spoke out to the judge and said what was going on.
Yeah, you'd hope so, but it's kind of more than their job's worth as an expert witness in that trial, because I'm not defending them, but I'm just saying that's what that system is. It's obviously corrupt as shit. It's all over the place, in which they're working. They're not going to piss all over their.
You've got this caveat of one expert witness can say, well, this is consistent with this is technically
consistent but not diagnostic of. Yeah.
But they know what they're saying. They must know the way it's coming across to the members of the jury.
They must know.
When they're using silly little technicality terminology like that.
Absolutely agree, and it's the same with Anna Milan saying that it's just advisory to get, if you consider that it's factitious, or what is it? Factitious insulin, man-made insulin, then you need to mass spectrometry it. She did it in the trial. She goes, it's just advisory, almost like kind of relegating. Dismissive. So yeah, she had to know that. She had to know that was bollocks. They're telling you who they're working for, and they're working for the prosecution because they're being paid by them, and sadly they've been corrupted by them. Yeah, or they are corrupt, or they're working for a side, aren't they? They're not working for the truth. They're working for a side.
Yeah, I can say, well, I mean, I have to be careful what I say, but there's a lot of people that would say anything for money.
That's absolutely right. Look at Marnarides. Marnarides went with Evans's air into the stomach idea, and then Evans changed his mind later on. So Marnarides is stuck with that. That's his kind of test. That's his what do you want to call it? That's his that's what he did in that trial. Basically, he ended up backing up something which was later denied by the person who originally said it. So,
but that testimony, if it's right that he didn't see the notes himself or anything, and just saw Evans's conclusions and drew his own conclusions from that, his testimony is worthless.
Yes, it is worth. It's just a rubber stamping in the same way that Bowen rubber stamps Evans. That's what you've got.
Apparently, Bowen had the all the notes as well, at plus Evans's conclusions, which that makes it obsolete because there's bias there. But apparently, Marinides didn't even have the notes and stuff. He just saw what Evans concluded and said, "Yeah, that sounds right."
It's a piece of theatre, isn't it, Richard and Mervyn and everybody in the chat? It's a piece of theatre that is basically it's just to basically expert to cover. It's just to create a kind of a wall of saying.
Myers mentioned that at the trial. He told him, "Look, you just rubber stamped it, didn't you?"
Yeah, he did. He did say that.
So,
but he hasn't got the sway over the jury in the same way, because the jury are going to expect Myers to support Lucy Letby, obviously, but but they're thinking, well, who is Myers? He's a lawyer. He's not a medical person.
Yeah. There's that. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, all these trolls and everyone saying this was mentioned in court. This was put before, and it was discussed. The problem is, it was dismissed in just such a way, like Evans did, like saying, "Oh, well, I don't agree with that, and you're just being rude now." That was just that was a whole dismissal. There was no sort of counter argument by the defence.
That's right. You pushed him until Evans says, "You're being rude to me."
Yeah.
And then, but where can you go? And the audience is just, or the audience. I mean, the jury is saying, "Oh God, there's that medical expert. The defence is being rude to him, but where's the medical expert to actually knock him out of the park?" And well,
the only thing to refute, I think Ben Myers did a great job, and he had Evans spluttering and on the ropes, but all Evans had to say was, "Well, I don't agree with that," and that was it. And because they didn't have any medical experts to counter their medical experts, so
it's almost as though he could win morally against Evans, but he's not going to win scientifically against even Evans. Even Evans, who's a kind of anti-scientific person, he's anti-science. Evans is, right? But Myers can't even beat an anti-science person in the eyes of the jury, because the jury is saying, well, this is just a lawyer. This isn't a scientist.
He's not a scientist, Yeah. So,
It's the old argument from authority aspect, an argument from expertise, because and Evans has also got, and there's this whole weight of the police's investigation. This has taken years to get to here, and the jury are thinking, well, why is this woman in this room if it isn't her? Can they all be wrong? And that's what they're all working. The idea of them finding her innocent is working against the power of that, not the weight of that.
I once read this comment the other day, actually, and it said, the comment read, "There were so many, she must have done one."
Well, yeah, exactly. It's as banal as that. I mean, because then you put the burden on the jury. Back to the burden on the jury is that not only we're going to find this person innocent, there's somebody out there has committed all these other crimes that the police have never gone anywhere near. There's no. It's not as though the defence can say, "Hold on a minute, maybe it was Breary who was killing the babies." They can't even say that. There's no one ever been in the frame. So once you've established the frame, it's a done deal. It's just, and that's why undoing it is through destroying the frame, and the frame is that there were crimes.
I'd love to know just how many of new cases are in this new full file, because the original trial they had what was it, 24 or something,
21 or something, 22 charges, yeah.
But I wonder how many are in this file that, is this the tactic that they're going for? Another 50, 100? I'd love if they could give us a number, give us a clue.
Well, it could be 25, because it could be 50 or 25. I think it could be 25 because of Evans. This is what Evans has said. This is what he said to the guy from who's MD. He sent 25 cases to them.
Yeah.
So it could be. It might not be all 25, but it's probably a bunch of them.
Hammond, is it?
Hammond, sorry, yeah. So Hammond reports that Evans told Hammond in 2024 that Evans, sorry, it's a bit complicated, that Evans had sent 25 supplementary cases to Cheshire Police in 2023. And then you've got the issue of who wrote the New Yorker piece? Sorry, I've forgotten her name.
Rachel Aviv.
Rachel Aviv says in the article that Evans told her after the first arrest, so one should be able to infer that means between the first and second arrest, that he sent 25 supplementary cases of deliberate harm or suspicion of deliberate harm to the police, which pushes that back into 2018/2019.
Yeah, but I think they just weren't included because she weren't on shift.
Well, quite possibly. Evans says to Hammond, "I'm confused. I'm not sure why they haven't got back to me yet in a year." This is the 2023 submission, and then in 2024 he tells Hammond about these 25 cases. Now, are these ones that have been sent to the CPS? Are they part of those, or I don't know? Well, if they're not part of, if it's not coming from Evans, who else would it come from?
Well, apparently they've got I can't remember his name.
Yoxall.
Yes, that's the guy. Yeah, he's now on board.
He's the Evans 2.0, is he?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
Oh, for fuck's sake! So, and he's Breary's mate. He's Breary's mate as well. So
yeah.
Because this is it. Cheshire Police know that Evans is a poison well for them now.
Yeah.
He's a liability for them, so they've got to create a new Evans, and is it Yoxall then? Is it? Oh God,
I believe so. Yeah,
that's mad, isn't it? Though. So it's Yoxall saying, "Yeah, okay, here are the cases of extubations that we have no reasonable."
Yeah, that's what I understand. Yeah, he's rubber stamped those ones. Yeah.
Oh, that's horrific, isn't it? Oh God.
Yeah.
Well, they're all getting themselves into. I don't think they care. They don't seem to care. They're getting themselves into deeper and deeper water with it, but they've got to prop up everything else that's been before. Why would somebody like Yoxall want to carry this on? I don't know. Why would?
Well, like you said, he's collegiate. He's a mate of the Brewery, and maybe probably must be Jairam as well.
I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah.
You'd
That's all I can-
you'd hope it'd have the nous to kind of go, this is all falling apart now. I'm not getting involved in this shit. But apparently
You
not.
know,
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
were wondering whether Evans knew JRM, and that's why he contacted. But there's no link being proved. But
Well, indeed, yeah. There's this
we'll
whole
never
thing
know,
about
do we?
the Welsh Paediatric Society in May 2017, and you got JRM and you got JRM and Gibbs giving, I think, JRM and Gibbs giving a kind of speech or a lecture or whatever, a presentation at that, and whether Evans was there. But in a way, to tie it down to him to having to be physically there is a bit unnecessary, because it could have been done through an email, it could have been done through a letter, it could have been done through a phone call, couldn't it?
Yeah.
If they know each other, then Evans doesn't have to go to Chester to be in that hotel, does he? I don't think we're ever going to know, but should we bring it to a close now? It's been absolutely a brilliant discussion, and thank you, Richard. Thank you, Mervyn. Thank you, everybody in the chat. And really appreciate it. And I don't think we're in a bad situation here. I think we're moving forward, isn't it? I think in a good way.
Yeah.
Slowly but surely.
I have to say, just before, I mean, obviously, there is going to be, as we know, a documentary on Panorama on the 11th.
Yes, next week, yeah.
Yeah, our friend Judith Moritz is going to do some damage, apparently. But I've heard that it's equally scathing of the defence and the prosecution as well. So it might not be so bad, because I think it will still have the argument of reasonable doubt on the defence's side. You know, I think it's an attempt of being balanced, I think, but still, if there's if it shines reasonable doubt on the prosecution's case, that's all you need, really, to get it back to the Court of Appeal. So.
It is, isn't it? I'm wondering whether this is their opportunity to begin to pivot towards something where they can say, "Oh, they've found the right story eventually," as it were. So I'm wondering if
BBC balance, balance BBC, apart from the fact that they haven't been up until this point.
Exactly. So they're trying to recover ground. Have you heard it? So, from what you said there, Richard, have you heard anything about it then? About what its content is going to be then?
No, just speculation, which I can't say here because I don't know if it's true. But picking holes in certain aspects of some of the panel.
Right, the panel, right? Yeah,
little. I don't know how damaging it's going to be, but something to do with the panel that Mark McDonald's come together. He's aware, apparently, of what's going to be the content of it. He's not worried. So
he's not worried. No, I don't think he doesn't need to be worried, does he? And it's almost like it's a kind of patheticness to it. The idea, well, they're not going to go after Nima Modi, are they? They're not going to go after Shu Lee himself. So is it almost like they're trying to? Who knows what they're trying to do, but I don't think that. I think if there's any direction of travel for them is to get on board. Actually, eventually, I can't see how they're going.
It could be. You could be right. It could be a tactical thing. We're saying, I think the title of the thing is something like "Who should we believe?" or "Who to believe?" ? So they're going to be weighing up one to the other, sort of thing, So they're questioning the prosecution now, but they're questioning the defence. They're questioning Mark McDonald's experts as well. God knows what the content of it's going to be. But,
That's true, but that title, I think, there's definitely movement between the first Panorama and this, then, isn't there? So that's definitely positive. So I think they're making they're not making it as overt as they might have done, but they're beginning to move. I think they're moving the dial, So that's good.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see what they. I know Lucy Letby analysis, Chris, on that is going to do a kind of video about that as well. So thanks ever so much again, Richard and Mervyn and everybody in the chat. And I'll bring the stream to a close. And I think it's all going in the right direction, really. And thank you ever so much. God bless.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.